There we go. I think we got it started. Finally. Goodness me. Welcome along, everybody. We are ready, finally. I think just about. I need to get the stream up. I'm unprepared for this one. But it is 100% League. It's the realistic division. Then we are back for round 4 in Miami. And looking forward to this one. Bear me 1 second whilst I get myself sorted. And I have done now, thankfully. Good stuff indeed. Good evening from Young Lights End. Good evening from Moomin as well. Then, and good luck to all drivers. And evening from Rocket Lee. And JVDA has said, come on, Hungry Styles. And of course, Hungry Styles had a fantastic race last night in bronze. That was, I think it was a P5 finish then for the Haas driver. Then he is in the Red Bull for the realistic 100% division, so we'll see what he can do then in the Red Bull, which has given him some wings potentially. We'll have to find out. And good luck then from R2 Beat then as well, then, who is holidaying somewhere and watching then on his jollies at the moment. Then good stuff indeed. Then fingers crossed we can see the stream and we can hear the stream. Fingers crossed it will work. Looks like it's just about working then. Good stuff indeed. Unfortunately, one reserve has not jumped into the car, so unfortunately we've only got 19 here tonight then, but we will tackle the Miami circuit. This famous for not being the favourite, I don't think, is this circuit, but we'll see what is going to unfold here tonight and take it from there. I think we've got 57 laps around this circuit here tonight then, so we'll have to tune in and see what's going to be going on here tonight in this one. Of course, qualifying coming up first as we get the drivers then set up for the grid then to start off the Grand Prix. That is, usually that's the way it works. If you're unfamiliar to Formula 1, that is how the grid is set then, qualifying first and then the race, not the other way around. Evening from Warwick as well, and Andy in the comment section. Good evening. Go on Mushroom as well then. So some Mushroom fans, some Styles fans, and we've got everybody else in between as well then. Good stuff indeed. Jitter is on track then. Hopefully we can hear the car audio. I can't. That's brilliant stuff indeed. So yes, spare me 1 second whilst I try and figure this out. Unless we can hear the car audio and it's just me. Oh dear, it's gone again. It's gone again. God, what is going on with this rubbish? Hang on, I'll connect it to something else and connect it back, and now we have audio. Good stuff indeed. Fantastic. And sick as muck then, of course, last week's race winner in China, that is. He is on the hard compound tyres then, cruising around on the back straight then here in Miami, then in the Ferrari, of course, then. So Ferrari, first race win, of course, for Ferrari this season, that is. But, of course, the first race win of Sick as Muck's ALR career. And so he is very happy on top of the podium then from last week. Then can he repeat the feat here in Miami? We will wait and see. But there we go. Oh no, says Rocket Lee, and I think that was referring to my amazing stream quality, but well, not quality, but the lack of stream. Then it went black screen for a minute then, but we've got it back, I think, and fingers crossed it is okay. Good stuff indeed then. So Jinner then is on a lap. Then Jinner is the first man to start off a lap here in Miami as we go through into turn 1 now. I'm just on board. They're negotiating through turns 2 and 3, which are very treacherous indeed, or definitely were very treacherous indeed, as Mumford has retired. And Mumford is starting from the back of the grid then after, well, he's not had any issue then, but he is, unfortunately, he is in a very, in a faster car than he should be, really, by 1 or 2 then. So he is going to be very graciously started from the back of the grid then to, of course, negate the difference between the car and the driver then. Here we go then. There's a nice little tow, very slight tow then from the Williams car then of, I'm not sure who that is, it might be Equaz, as we go through the back straight then for Jinner. Then DRS, of course, available down this back straight. Then there are 3 DRS zones around this circuit compared to in China when there's only 2. So 3 more opportunities for that rear wing to be open then to, oh dear, is a bit of a snap then from the Mercedes driver then coming through under the highway. And so far so good then. Let's see what he can do then for the sector 3 of the lap then. Of course, purple in the first and second sectors, because he's the first man on track here tonight then. 14 minutes remain of qualifying as we get through the qualifying session then, of course, quickly enough, and then we'll be into the Grand Prix itself. Wow, Equaz, not Equaz, yes it was Equaz, was gifted the membership then by Vintage then. Good evening to the Vintage. Thank you very much, Vintage, as well then. And All good as well. Then evening to Vintage, and I think my mic stand's about to fall over. There we go. Jinner then does a 27.2 to set ourselves underway. And that is good stuff indeed. Then Sick as Mug is on the hard compound tyres, so he's used up all of his deployment as well. Then up to the line of 28.4 then for the Ferrari, last week's race winner then. But there is Kamara Racer then with a 26.9, then puts himself into the 26s straight away then in the Racing Bull. Then looking good indeed. Car number 69, Haas of Young Lights then into P3 onto the second row of the grid then with 27.2 as well. That is good stuff indeed. Then Cam unfortunately has invalidated his time. Maybe we'll be able to go again here. It looks like he's going to try go again as well, so we'll have to wait and see what he can do on his next lap. Then Kiki coming down the back straight. Then Equaz is further back then, so we'll ride on board with the other Racing Bull driver. Then had a bit of a difficult time in China last week then, and in Silver as well, unfortunately for him. But can he turn it around here in Miami now, the Sunshine State then, as we get ourselves through the penultimate corner now as well. Then of course here comes Kiki then up to the line. Let's see what the Racing Bull driver can do here as he comes across the line to set his first time on the board. It's a 27.1, then puts himself on the front row alongside his teammate as it stands. Brilliant stuff indeed then for the Racing Bulls as it stands as well. Then Vessia then a 30.9, then into P6 goes Vessia. Then Cam unfortunately invalidates once again. Then Equaz going down the back straight. Then let's see what Equaz is up to then in the Williams car. Actually, we've got Coop first. Coop first in the other Williams car. He's coming around the penultimate corner now as well then. And let's see what Coop can do. And where will he go then in the order then up into P5 then. Good stuff indeed then. Where's his teammate going to go? Equaz up into P2. Splits the Racing Bulls then. A 26.993 then. And that puts himself as only the second driver so far to get himself into the 26s here in this first few laps then of qualifying as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed then for Equaz. Then up into P2 then. Of course that is where he, that is where he, unfortunately for Speed Car, he's on the intermediate compound tyre, so he's got that wrong. Troy is on track then. Troy is reserving in place of Lucas Percy, and let's see what he can do here in the Kick Sauber tonight then, coming through the stadium section then towards the highway or towards the underpass section as well then. Unfortunately invalidating then going over the curbs into that section as well. Unfortunately their movement is on track. Their movement unfortunately has invalidated as well, so it seems like everybody on track then is not having a good time out there at the moment. 12 minutes left. Oh, goodness. 12 minutes left of qualifying here as we get ourselves through the first few runs, then first few laps of qualifying for these drivers as well. Then as we get ourselves into the middle phase of qualifying, this is where you decide whether you're going to go out 3 times or you're going to go out once or twice, and we'll wait and see. Because of course, if you do manage to save some tyres for the race, then potentially you can use them at a later date. Then, and it might be beneficial then to save a set of tyres. You never know what is going to happen in a race, and especially in a 100% race as well. Then Troy back in the pit lane as he has unfortunately had an invalidation on that time. Then Moomin is I think coming back to the box as well. Then Cam is back in the pit lane after unfortunately invalidating 2 runs. Then Speed Car is down to 35.0 on intermediate compound tyres, but we don't really care about that because that is not a competitive lap time then from Speed Car. Vintage is on the circuit then. Let's see what Vintage is up to then. He's coming through the underpass then, but he's unfortunately he's got his ERS on then as well then, and he's on an out lap, so he needs to turn that off before he starts off another flying lap. Then Young Lights back on circuit, so is Jinner, and he is behind Vintage, so we'll stay on board with the Red Bull driver then of Vintage and see what he's going to be doing then in his first outing here in qualifying. Styles has said, "Come on, Mushroom, show us your quali pace as well." Then says Styles. Then I think there's some qualifying banter going on between Styles and Serious Mushroom. Then so fantastic stuff indeed. But there we go. So Ginger Age is also out on track. So stay frosty, everybody. Watch out. Then there could be a McLaren and anywhere on the circuit that could be causing a few issues. Then, but there we go. So far so good. Then as we go through into Sector 1, then for the Vintage, then flying through in the Red Bull car. Let's see what he can do. Can he set those timing screens alight? Then, if I can get me words out, then into the nicely banked cambered, I should say, left-hander, then very long left-hander, then on to the back straight, then with some DRS or detection point right there, but the DRS actually activation point is over here, and there he has activated it just in time. Good stuff indeed. Then heading down towards that back straight, then into the stadium section once again, then and into the underpass after that as well. Then this is with the more complex part, the more technical part of the circuit, as we try and get ourselves through here without bumping into the walls then, and without invalidating your lap time as well, which is difficult. So there we go then, into Sector 3 we go now, flying through. Vintage keeps it within track limits. which is all you can do, which is very good stuff indeed then. And now on to the back straight. Once again, DRS almost halfway down the straight here, but it is activated now by Vintage as we fly down towards the penultimate turn. Then let's see what the Red Bull driver can do then into this last phase of the lap, then into the final couple of corners. And here's the Hard Rock Stadium then right in front of us then, as we miss that and go around it instead of going through it. But up to the line then at 28.3 then from Vintage, puts himself P7 as it stands. Great stuff indeed then from the Red Bull driver. And Kiki has said he hates Miami, so there we go. He is currently P3, so it's not too bad. So could be worse, I suppose. Moomin has got himself up into P9. I think that is a competitive time then from Moomin as well. Good stuff indeed then. Ginger Age is on the circuit, so watch out. There's a kick but then there's nearby. There's also a Ferrari that's nearby. Watch out for Ginger Age then. He is coming. He is coming at great pace then. He is almost at 200 miles an hour. Then there's a Ferrari. Needs to avoid that papaya machine, I should say, as we head into sector, well, the end of sector 2 now, I should say, then into the technical section of the track as well for Ginger Age, and he is flying through there. Look at him go in the pink helmet as well. Then perfect stuff indeed. Then over the curbs, then through the underpass, under the underpass, I should say, then under the highway and onto the back straight now as well. Then here comes Ginger Age flying along then in the McLaren. Then can he get himself into the top 10 in qualifying? Of course, he hasn't been able to qualify in the top 10 just yet this season so far, but this is only round 4, and let's see what he can do here in Miami tonight. Then round the penultimate corner, then very nicely done indeed. Then cutting over the apex of the corner as well. Then flying up to the line. Then deployment all used. Then but here he comes. Then 27.6, 27.5 puts himself P7 then for the McLaren driver. I'm sure he's very happy with that then, and brilliant stuff indeed then in the McLaren for the Ginger Age. And he is flying out there on form. Then of course Lando Norris's first F1 win, as the Camaro race has gone even faster than with the 26.7. Then Lando Norris's first F1 win. Can we see, as we need to get out of the way then of the kick Sauber, but he has done, thankfully. But yeah, Lando Norris's first race F1 race win, I should say, finally got there. But can Ginger Age repeat the feat then and get another win here for McLaren? I'm sure he can't. But never mind. Sorry about that, Sean. But there you go. So yeah, good stuff indeed. Then the kick Sauber was, I believe, it was Cam then coming through for his first lap as well. Then Troy is further along though. He is in the other kick Sauber then, and he's coming through into sector 3 now. Let's see what kick Sauber can do then in this qualifying. Then they need to get one lap on the board, at least a lap on the board at some point, as Troy then flying down the back straight then here to complete the lap, then his first lap as well. Then same for Cam. Then Cam is a bit further back though. We'll go back to Troy and see what the first on track kick Sauber is going to be up to then through the penultimate corner, then passing the Hard Rock Stadium now as well, then up to the line. Let's see what it's going to be then from Troy, then up to a 26.7, then puts himself P2 on the front row by less than, what is that, 69 thousandths of a second behind Camaro Racer. Then here comes Cam, then he can do the same thing. Can he rival his teammate then here in this session? Then up to the line, then it's a 27.5, then puts himself into P9, into the top 10 then behind Ginger Age, which is not where you want to start the race for sure, but he's still got time to go back there and improve. So not all doom and gloom just yet then for for Cam, sorry. Speed Car then is tackling the circuit, this time for his first outing on the soft compound tyres after using a set of intermediate compound tyres before. And has got himself through the technical part of the circuit very nicely indeed. Then almost losing the back end, trying to put the power down, but he's 6.3 seconds up on his time. That would put him into the 28.7s, I believe, and still a sector to improve as well then. So let's see what Speed Guy can do as he flies down to the back straight then, and we will see what he can do then here in a jiffy. I'm not quite sure what is going on here. There we go. That's better, I think. All right, then here comes Speed Car then up to the line. And what can he do then? It's a 28.2, then puts himself into the top 10 and 10th place at the same time. 28.234 for the Haas driver. Then good stuff indeed then to get himself sorted in this one as well. Then Speed Kai coming back to the pit lane now. So same for Cam as well. Then Jenner is in P6 at the moment. Then he's on a 27.2 at the moment. Then, but he's on a lap, I believe, right now. So we'll see what the Mercedes driver can do here in qualifying. What do you mean I'm not going to win, says Ginger Age. Well, it'd be very fantastic if he did win. I have to say that. But yes, We will see. Of course, we'll have to wait and see. Potentially, we'll see a McLaren win then, as Ginger Rage is very confident. Then Jenner, unfortunately, has invalidated coming through that underpass section. That is going to be very costly indeed. Then he has got time to get himself back in the pit end and back out for another flying lap then. But unfortunately, that was costly indeed then for Jenner, who has unfortunately not going to be able, sorry, to get a lap then together on this occasion. Then he's got some time still to come back into the box. Then same for Speed Kai, same for Sick as Muck. Well, no, Sick as Muck is out on a lap then. So Sick as Muck then, last week's race winner, is charging down towards that back straight now as well. Then here we go then, late on the brakes then for the Ferrari. Then can he keep it under control then into this technical part of the circuit then? The Speed Kai of the Haas, I should say, of Speed Kai is just getting himself back into the pit lane. Then that is what the yellow flags are for then at the end of sector 3. Here comes Sick as Muck then over the curbs then, very nicely indeed, keeping it within track limits as well then, very close to the wall on the exit there. But he is 4.5 tenths up, and that will put him into the 27s, then potentially into the top 10 here as well as it stands. Let's wait and see what he can do in Sector 3, though. We'll have to find out. Then here comes the Ferrari charging down towards the penultimate corner as well, then into that heavy braking zone once again then. And now back on the power then quickly enough then to get yourself towards the checkered line. And can he get himself further up the order? Yes, he can. Then it's a 9.6 tenths improvement. Puts himself P8 then, 27.4. Then he's ahead of Ginger Rage, which is terrible news for the McLaren driver. But much better news for Sick as Muck then, because he didn't have to worry about getting past Ginger Rage in this race. Ginger for podium, says Styles as well then. Good stuff indeed. Giving myself a nosebleed, I'm so high up in the classification, says Ginger Rage. Brilliant stuff indeed. Well, he's back out on a lap then, is Ginger Rage. We'll have to wait and see what he's going to be doing then on his second affair. But we will see what he's going to be up to then in this next stage. And we'll come back to him though, because there's me thingy gone. There it is. Because we've got Kamara Racer then. Kamara Racer has already started off on another lap here and coming through sector 1, then flying through the slalom S's then into this sector, then coming through into sector 2 very shortly as well then. Looking good so far for Kamara Racer, currently on pole position here in the Miami Grand Prix. He is 12 thousandths down on his time, which is bad news indeed then, but he's only 12 thousandths. Can he can find that back in sector 2 and sector 3 then? Here he comes then down the back straight then. No toe from the Williams car, I think it is, that's just getting out of the way then on the back straight and making sure that he doesn't impede the Racing Bull driver of Kamara Racing. Then coming through the technical section here now as well, then flying through, very nice done indeed. And Sirius Mushroom has retired in the pit lane. He has not done any qualifying, and Kamara Racer has invalidated his time and will not be able to improve in this qualifying session then as well. Goodness me. Here comes Ginger Rage then. We'll go on board with Ginger Rage then, because this is going to be the scariest lap of your life then. He is, he has used a lot of ERS then already, and he's only on to the second part of the lap then as we come through into this next technical part of the circuit. Ginger Rage looking to improve on a 27.556. Then Hungry Styles has retired as well then. So that is bad news for Hungry Styles then. Into the technical section, he's got himself through then inside track limits. Very close indeed to the wall on the exit as well. Then here he goes then, powering down towards the back straight then, trying to keep that car pointed in the right direction as Ginger Rage's goal. Then can he get himself on pole position here in the Miami Grand Prix? We will wait and see then. Here he comes then, late on the brakes once again then into the hairpin of the penultimate corner then. Very good stuff indeed. Then Ginger Rage is flying out then. Look at him go. What's it going to be though in qualifying then for his final outing then across the line? It's unfortunately, it doesn't improve. There we go. Good stuff indeed. Brilliant. Well done then, Sean. Good stuff indeed. Very well done. Fantastic. Equaz is not coming through on the lap then. That's an Alpine, I think, coming into the pit lane. So that is, I think that might be Farf then, back in the pit lane. He is done and dusted already, is Farf. No, it's not Farf, he's carried on, and good stuff indeed. Troy is just starting off a lap then. We've got a few more drivers then starting off their laps as well here. Speed Kai back out on circuit then. I'm trying to find out who's going to be next across the line to start off finish off a lap, I should say. Then moving just starting off a lap then. So it's going to be a Mercedes, and it's not Reflection. It is going to be a Mercedes of Ginner, I think. He's gone purple in sector 2, though. He is 4.5 tenths up, maybe almost half a second up. That will put him in the range of pole position. Then, if he can hold on to that, then we've had somebody else retire as Farf, then, who didn't get a time on the board either as well here in this qualifying session. Then around the final couple of corners, then for Ginner, then can he improve then to a front row position as it stands then based on his current time? Let's see what he can do then up to the line. It's a pole position for Ginner then with a 26.572. Brilliant stuff indeed from Ginner. Mercedes on pole position here in Miami, it looks like here so far, that is. Young Lights improves to P5. He displaces both the Williams cars as it stands. Then brilliant stuff indeed. Then out there, we've got another Williams of Equaz coming through. Here comes Equaz. Then he's almost a 10th up on his time. That will put him ahead of Young Lights. He's put him onto the second row of the grid as it stands. Then into P4. Brilliant stuff indeed. Troye. It's not Troye. It's Cam. Cam improves then to P10. Then he stays P10 at this stage of the qualifying. Then where is Kiki? Then Kiki is the next across the line, isn't he? I think no, it's not. It's Vessia. Then Vessia up into P9. Ginger Rage down into P10. Unfortunately for Ginger Rage. Then here comes Troye, then Troye around the final couple of corners, and Troye is taking pole position away from Jenner by 0.04 of a second. Then it's a 26.568 then from Troye. Here comes Kiki though. Can Kiki displace anybody from the top order? It's into the P3 then for Kiki, then second row of the grid then for the Racing Bulls, the second row lockout for Racing Bulls, but it's Troye on pole position for the Miami Grand Prix by 0.04 of a second then ahead of Jenner. That kicks out, but then is looking pretty good here in Miami then for Troye. And for Cam, to be fair, he's just outside the top 10 there, but he's done a good job then in qualifying so far. He is, what is that? It's about second then between the top 10 and Troye's tied, and then brilliant stuff indeed then as we get ourselves through into the race now as well. Then we'll have a look at the classification then for qualifying after and a short word from our lovely sponsors as well then, but we'll be back very shortly then as we look at the classification quickly. Troye then pole position, then Jenner in P2, Kiki and Kamara then the Racing Bulls locking out row 2, Equaz P5 then, good stuff from him, Young Lights in P6 then splitting the Williams then of Coupe in P7, Sick as Muck P8 then, Vessia P9, Ginger Rage rounds off the top 10, Aversio Cam then in P11, then Vintage P12, Speed Kai P13, Moomin P14, and unfortunately Fast Styles, Mumford, Serious Mushroom and Reflection did not get a time on the board. Right then, we are ready to get started for the Miami Grand Prix, round 4 of season 3 of the 100% realistic division. And just waiting for the drivers to confirm their setups, confirm their strategies, confirm their fuel loads and everything like that before we get ourselves into the 57 laps, I believe it is, or 56 laps around this circuit now as well. Then good stuff from all 19 drivers. Then onto the grid we go then. And there is Troye then taking away the formation lap then as we get ourselves started here for the race itself. Then we'll have a look quickly at the information we've got then in terms of the tyre compound that everyone is starting on then. So far we have got a majority on the medium compound tyres. We'll go through those who haven't got the medium compound tyres on because it will be quicker, won't it? We have got Serious Mushroom then P18 on the hard compound, Mumford as well then in the Aston Martin on the hards in P17. So those two down the further down the order, I should say, starting on the harder compound tyres, looking to go for a longer first stint here and see how it unfolds in this race. Then further up the order though, we've got Young Lights in P6 on the hard compound tyres. He might be vulnerable then in the first few laps then, but of course will be able to go longer in this first stint as well. Same for Kiki, P3 then on the grid, then opting for the hard compound to start off with, whereas most of the drivers around them in the top 10 are on the medium compound tyres. And we've got one single runner then who's opted for something completely different, and that is Speed Kai, who has opted for the soft compound tyres. The only driver on the grid then opting for those soft compounds as well then, and a bit twitchy then for Speed Kai as he tries to get himself around this formation lap here as well. Then medium, soft then particularly strategy, so potentially Speed Kai can go soft, medium, then the opposite way around. Then we might see a few drivers then try and do the hard compound tyres. Oh my goodness, try and do the hard compound tyres to the mediums, potentially do a one stop around here. We'll have to wait and see which strategy is going to be the best. And Ginger Rage said, Styles, it has to be the win. So there we go then. Ginger Rage then from P10 on the grid then looking to get the race win for McLaren then, and repeat the feat then of a certain Lando Norris then, who of course won his first F1 Grand Prix, that is, here in Miami then only a few weeks ago now. It's we're already at Belgium then, aren't we, this weekend, or this weekend coming up. So yeah, we're flying through the season in both aspects, in ALR and in the real life as well. Then of course after Belgium this weekend we have a nice summer break, but then we get back racing in Zandvoort, I think 3 weeks or so later, the weekend at the end of August, whichever one that is. But here we go then, we don't need to worry about that, we need to worry about this, and this is going to be the race start very shortly once everyone is lined up on the grid. There's me telemetry gone, there we go, good stuff. And we can get ourselves ready to race here as well. I need to get this on as well, but it's not working. Yes, fantastic. Brilliant stuff. 5 red lights coming on here in Miami. The 5 red lights are on here in Florida. And the 5 red lights are off, and away we go then. And Troy gets a good start. Then can Jinner cover him off, though? Can Jinner get himself past then? Not quite then. The kick Sauber holds on to the race lead. There's a dive then from a Williams then as well. Equaz sending it through the middle then of the Mercedes and the Racing Bull. Then Kamara has to escape off the circuit there. And goodness me, that was very ambitious then from Equaz then. Usually a much more considered starter than that one into turn 1, but he has got himself into P3 then. A fantastic start indeed then, as so has Young Lights then. He's gained 2 places then. Jinner has dropped down to P5. He's taking it easy, I think, in this start, and good stuff indeed then. Favre's got himself past Sickers Muck. No, he's not. He's battling away with the the previous race winner then, last week's race winner then is Favre then, trying to get himself past the Ferrari as we go down the back straight then. Looks a bit gloomy overhead here in Miami then. Potentially might have some rain on the forecast as well then. Cooper's got himself past Kiki then, as we've got more action coming into the heavy braking zone here. And Kiki, no, it's Jinner and Young Lights then switching places as well as we go into the technical section. There's 3 wide there, and that is not going to work, unfortunately. Then you need to back out before you get to that point. And I think Favre then almost caused his teammate a bit of problems then. Ginger Age is battling then with Moomin then side by side as we go into the back straight then in sector 3. And so far so good then. Troy has got a 1.6 second lead then. He's flying out there in the kick salve then. He has got himself a nice comfortable gap already then. Of course DRS is activated at the end of lap 1 then onto lap 2. They won't have it down the main straight then, but they will have it into sector 2. There we go then. Reflections got himself past Vintage, and Styles has had a different start as well. Then Sirius Bashman has not gained any places, then Reflections gained 3 places then from the back of the grid. Then Speed Car dropping down 2 places, and Cam then having an issue as well then on that start. It looks like as we've got Mumford going for a gap, then Mumford going for a move on Ginger Rage, then up into P12 here as Favre and Kiki now start to battle. Then Favre's got himself past the Racing Bull. Then Kiki's had a difficult start then. He started on the second row of the grid. He's down to P8 then on those hard compound tyres, and we did think that there was going to be an issue then as Cam has got himself past Ginger Rage as well. Then Ginger Rage dropping back down, dropping back now as at this stage, but of course he's only on lap 2. There is still time for Ginger Rage to get his race win. So it's not all done and dusted just yet then. Mumford has gained 5 places, then Moon's gained 3 places, and just outside the top 10 now. DRS is available, then here comes Sick as Muck on the charge, and getting himself past Kiki, of course. It is imperative for those who are on the medium compound tyres, or all the soft compound tyres, to get themselves past those on the hards, as here comes Speed Kai. Then he's made the move on Ginger Age into the heavy braking zone then, and now into the technical part of the circuit. He is up into P14 on those soft compound tyres. Let's see what he can do then in this next stint. Then when will he come into the pit lane? He'll be the first potentially to come in the box then to call it a day on those soft compound tyres compared to everybody else on the mediums and the hards. But we will have to wait and see what the strategy is going to unfold, or how it's going to unfold then. Kamara Racer back ahead of Equaz then into the penultimate corner. Then Young Lights is going for a move round down the inside there as well on the Williams car. Can he hold it is the question. Then they're going to go side by side through there into the end of lap 2. And Cooper's got the fastest lap of the race. Then Cooper's on a charge, then trying to get himself past Jinner here as well into turn 1. Then round the outside as Coop. Oh, goodness me, that's a move and a half. Then if he can hold on to it, then there's going to be side by side through turn 2 and turn 3, and it's not quite enough then for Coop then against the Mercedes driver then. Vesh has got himself past. Kiki's had an issue, and Kiki trying to get himself back underway. Then what's happened to Kiki? He's not lost any end plates though, but that's good. But unfortunately, we didn't see what happened to Kiki then. I think he was, where was he? Was he in a battle with somebody? I can't remember exactly. As Kamara Racers had a problem though. Kamara Racers had a big smash then, and it's a virtual safety car. And Kamara is out of the race on lap 3 as well here. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Kamara Racer there. He has had a bit of a smash indeed, and goodness me, that is a very big smash indeed. I'm not quite sure why it's not a safety car, to be honest, but there we go. As I'm not sure Troy would be happy with a safety car at this point in the race, and he probably wants to extend that gap as much as he can in this first stint here as well, and was looking very good indeed then at the first couple of laps or so. The gap started to, well, we can't really tell what the gaps are now because of the VSC, but interesting stuff indeed. Hopefully Kamara can tell us what happened there, because we're not quite sure, and potentially he hit the wall and bounced back off the wall as well then, and that is why we ended up on the right hand side of the circuit. Then we'll have to wait and see, because the walls are pretty close around here as well, so we can see, or will see potentially more safety cars, more VSCs, etc. as the race unfolds. Then it's going to be a bit treacherous indeed then, but as Moomin's got a drive-through penalty, and I think Cam's got a drive-through as well then, unfortunately for both the Ferrari and the Kick Sauber cars. Goodness me, there's wings coming off in the background there, I think, or unless it was some sort of debris then flying off the circuit. Cam's into the box then to serve that drive-through penalty. Styles then is going to go through, then Cam's going to be dropping down to P18 then, but he's still underway. Then Speed Kai and Mumford then switching places, then Mumford Speed Kai up into P10, back up into the top 10 now for Speed Kai. Good stuff indeed then. Trying to chase down Movement as well then, who has got to serve that drive-through penalty. Then Mumford has been overtaken by the Haas, and Ginger Rage is waiting in the wings. Then what's happened there is Mumford's gone very wide, then Ginger Rage has been compromised then through the S's section. Kiki's gone through as well on Mumford then, and unfortunately we didn't see what happened there, but Mumford was struggling into that section for some reason, and that has been very costly indeed then for the Aston Martin driver. Then here comes Kiki then in the Racing Bull, as Ginger has got himself past Young Lights. Here comes Kiki on the attack then, and here comes Reflection as well then. Reflection in the Mercedes then, going to get both of them down the back straight, it looks like. Brilliant stuff indeed from Reflection. He takes that position up into P12 then for Mercedes driver. Then brilliant stuff indeed then, and Kiki dropping back then after that. He did make the move on Mumford there, but he didn't make the move on Reflection, who just took them both then, didn't he, down that back straight. Brilliant pace, brilliant speed from the Reflection, from the Mercedes driver, I should say. Gino has got himself past Young Lights, I think, in that battle as well, and now up into P3 then. Unfortunately for Kamara Racer, he was running quite comfortably then in the top 3. I think it was even top 2 as well. Then goodness me, Young Lights going for a move then, and he's got the position, I think, has he? Yes, he's got himself past. I think he's got himself up into P3, then passes Jenner then into the penultimate corner. But here comes Jenner on the attack then, flashing away then is that ELRS light then for the Haas driver ahead of us into turn 1 then. It's not too bad then. Moving and serving his drive-through penalty then. Mumford is in the box as well. Then Mumford's got issues then. We did see some front wing fly off into the final couple of corners then at the restart under that VSC, and that is the left end plate missing then for Mumford. Unfortunately, that is costly indeed then. Cam carrying on then, Movement coming out of the box now as well. Both of them have served their drive-through penalties and back underway, thankfully. And let's see what they can do to get himself back in this race then. Mumford onto a new set of tyres, and Ginger Rage has had an issue. Then Ginger Rage has lost out to Kiki into sector 2. And the Racing Bull now trying to get himself back into the top 10 here. He's got Reflection to get past next, and then he's got Speed Kai on those soft compound tyres further along as well. Then here comes Kiki on the attack. Then Ginger Rage has let his teammate of Mushroom go through. I think there's some team orders down at McLaren. Here comes Kiki on the attack then, but he can't get himself close enough to make a move, I don't think, into that heavy braking zone yet. No, he can't get himself past, unfortunately. He stays behind for the time being. Sick as Muck has been in a battle with Farf then, and these two battling away then as per usual, and that is going to end badly probably for one of them, because that is exactly what Farf does. He can't get himself sorted and get himself out of danger, but there we go. Out in front then, it is a 1.7 second gap then between Equaz and the Kick Sauber of Troy, as down the inside goes Coop on Young Lights. Then there's contact between the two of them. Young Lights has dropped down to P4 then, but there's a gaggle of cars coming through as well. Then here comes Jinner, here comes Sick as Muck, here comes Farf as well, side by side with the Ferrari driver. Then as we go in towards turn 1 then, Jinner making a look then into turn 1, but he's too far back. Then Farf has got himself past Sick as Muck into turn 1, up into P6 now for the Alpine. Good stuff indeed then. Kiki then couldn't get himself past Reflection still, so he has to sit in P11 for the time being. Then McLaren's now ganging up behind as well. Sirius Rushman's gained 6 places so far in this race then. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Just outside the top 10 now for the McLarens, as they look to get some points in this race as well. Then Young Lights coming through on the back of Coop. Then he's 2 seconds off his teammate as Coop. Then he's not going to be able to get any slipstream or any DRS then from Equaz to help him here defend from Young Lights, who's on a charge now, looking to get that position back. Then up into P3 then once again. again. Then there's going to be two side by side. Here comes Jinner, and Jinner has got himself into P4, and can he get himself P3 as well? Then Young Lights defending as hard as he can on that in the inside now as well into the technical section. But there's a Mercedes there as well now, and the hat has to concede then to the Mercedes as Jinner then takes P3. Good stuff indeed. My heart won't be able to hold on for this. But there we go then. 2 seconds the gap out in front. 2 seconds the gap between Equaz and Jinner then in P3. And then we've got Young Lights, Coop, Favre, Sick as Monk, Vessia and Speed Kai catching up then. Reflection in the top 10. Rounding off the top 10 I should say as it stands then. Here we go then into the heavy braking zone once again then, making sure you keep yourself within the car's range, the next car's range then, but of course making sure you don't go too far and damage your front wing like Mumford did on that restart into the penultimate corner. Then here comes an Alpine of Favre on the charge once again then as he goes down the inside, trying to go down the inside of Coop then. I think there was a bit of a rub in his racing then through there, but unfortunately for Favre then, oh goodness me, he's on the curb then is Favre, and somehow has got himself through there trying to get the curb then to do the steering for him, and up into P5 now is the Alpine driver then. Good stuff indeed. We will have a look at the tyre situation then, because everyone on the medium compound tyres apart from a few on the hards, and somebody's gone wide there. It's Favre who's gone wide there, and now, oh my goodness me, that's opened the door then for Coop then, and almost into the back of Young Lights as well then. Young Lights having an issue through that corner as well then, has cost him dearly. Jinner might be able to scamper away here if he can use his battery then, if he's got any battery left that is, as we go on to the back straight once again then. Here comes 3 of them. There could be 4 with Sick as Muck involved as well then. Here we go then into the heavy braking zone, and no positions have changed at all. Anticlimactic to say the least there, but so far so good then. Speed Car has been passed by Reflection then. No, he hasn't. Yes, he has then. Kamara Racer has left the session. Unfortunately for Kamara, he is out then on lap 3 then with a big crash indeed. But unfortunately we don't know what happened there at this stage of the race anyway. But hopefully Kamara Racer then, it was just a unfortunate racing incident then. But we will have to wait and see then. Reflection's got himself up into P9 then. Speed Kai has dropped down then. Sick as Muck is on a charge. He's got himself back past Favre then, and back ahead of the Alpine cars then into the penultimate corner then. Very nicely done indeed. And back on the attack then, I should say then, with the Williams pair, and of course Young Lights and Jinner as well then. 2.4 seconds the gap, quite comfortable for Troy as it stands then, and for Equaz as well then. Here comes the Alpine battle then, and Vesh has gone back past Favre then. These two are going to start battling, are they? That's going to get dangerous indeed for Alpine, and Bruno Ferman is going to be very unhappy if there's going to be any incidents there. We've seen what he's done with his real life drivers. I'm sure he'll do the same then with Favre and Vessia then, if there's going to be any antics between the two of them then, but thankfully not so far. So far so good. Here comes Mushroom then on the back with Kiki then just challenging him as well. Then Kiki has, I think, got past Mushroom there, has he? No, maybe not then. I think Kiki then dropping back behind Speed Kai, and now trying to get himself into the top 10 with an attack then on the Haas driver then. But he's got get himself past Reflection as well for that P9 position then. They're all in the DRS train behind Reflection here as we go on to lap 8 of 57 then. So far so good as Sick as Muck and Coop then battling away side by side then through the technical part of the lap as well then. Here we go then into the underpass section, and Coop has had to yield then because Sick as Muck had the inside. Then we got yellow flags out there for somebody. It's for Cam, I think. Cam's had an issue somewhere. Nope, he's still going. I'm not quite sure what's happened then. His movement is carrying on as well. He seems to be intact. Mumford, of course, has got that new front wing as well after that damage then on under the VSC. Favre and Coop then switching places then. Favre down the inside into the penultimate corner, has got the position then up into P6 now for Favre. Speed Kai has been passed by Kiki, has he? Yes, he has then. Jinner picked up the first penalty. Goodness me, Speed Kai locking up the brakes then. And goodness me, that is definitely not how you want to slow yourself down for that corner. Then Mushroom's gone through as well then. Favre has been passed back by Coop then. And Jinner and Young Lights are battling away then through turns 1 and 2. Then there's contact between the two of them once again as well as we go through turns 3, then heading towards turns 4 and 5. And this is not where you want to go side by side through here. Then Young Lights has the position. He's got himself up into P3 then and holds on to the position for the time being as well though. But Jinner's going to have some DRS down the back straight to potentially try and get himself back through. And Mumford sets the fastest lap of the race because Mumford has made that pit stop then for extra, or an extra wing. No, it's not an extra wing, but a new wing and extra tyres, or a change of tyres, I should say. Goodness me. Jinner then on the attack then. Can he get himself back that podium place? And here he comes on the attack then of the Haas of Young Lights. Sick as Muck involved here in this battle as well. Looks like here comes the Ferrari as well, but not quite. Then down the inside then there's contact between the Mercedes and the Haas as well once again. But Jinner this time I think has got himself through into P3 just about. Then Coop then is waiting in the wings as well. Then Favre following him through. both the Alpines then lying in close proximity, we could say, as Jenner has ghosted then. So interesting stuff indeed. I'm not quite sure what is going on there, but nonetheless, then here he comes. Then here comes Sick as Muck. Then he's got himself past Young Lights. Then here comes Sick as Muck. Then going to go for P3, and it looks like he's got it. Has he? Yes, he has. Just about then into the penultimate corner. Then yes, he's got the move done and dusted. Then Young Lights trying to go down the inside. Mumford picks up a 3-second penalty. There's all sorts of position changes here as this bunch then really start to battle. Then there's, oh my goodness me, Cooper's had to go off the circuit then to avoid Jenner, and my that's all I have to say really. Cooper and Farf now battling away then into turn 1. Then Jenner down to P5. Then Young Lights up or down to P4, and Sick as Muck into the podium places now 4 seconds behind Equaz as it stands. 10 laps have been 9 laps have been completed, then 10 laps have been commenced, but we have got ourselves a very fiery start to this Grand Prix then, especially with the field inside the top 10 then, from P3 down to P8. Then they're all in this mix with the DRS as well. Then here we go then down the back straight once again. Then who's going to make the moves then? Is there going to be any moves at all? We will find out now. Here comes Young Lights. Then Young Lights of course on the hard compound tyres. It shouldn't be too competitive then compared to those on the mediums just yet then, but potentially we will see him phase into this Grand Prix very soon then, very close indeed to the back of the Ferrari then, and Farf and Coop then side by side through here as well. Farf and Coop then, Cooper's covered him off then into the underpass section. Young Lights picks up a 3-second penalty then for his troubles as well. Then that's 3 seconds going to be added onto his race time as well. Then same for Jenner, same for Mumford as it stands as well. Then Ginger Age, oh my goodness me, Coop's pointing the wrong way. Then Sirius Button's got a 3-second penalty, and not quite sure what happened then to Kiki. He was pointing the wrong way then, potentially some contact then, shoved him around in that fashion, but unfortunately for Kiki, dropping down to P16 here into the next couple of corners. Then we've got Farf back past Coop again, and now he's actually lost out the DRS then to the top 5 then, so that is going to be very costly indeed then for the Alpine driver, as Coop is back on the attack then into turn 1. Got the inside then, has Coop then, can he hold on to the position? No, not quite. He's been moved out of the way slightly by Farf then, but it was all fair just about, so good stuff indeed then. Farf needs to catch up to that DRS then of Jenner then in the Mercedes to have a chance of holding on to this battle as well then, and keeping hold of that P6 at worst, because of course if you're outside the DRS then and the drivers behind are inside the DRS, they can use that to overtake you, which is actually the idea of DRS, funnily enough. So there we go. Mushroom is into the top 10 now. He's got a 3-second penalty though, unfortunately for his troubles as well then. He's on the hard compound tyres. Then Ginger Rage is just outside the top 10 then, but he's got some DRS then on his teammate, potentially can pull himself along then towards that reflection in P9. Then Cooper's got himself past Farf, and Young Lights and Jenner resuming their battle then, the Haas versus the Mercedes, as we go through the technical part of the circuit once again, and the Haas has held on to the position just about. Good stuff indeed then. Jenner then losing the car. Then Vessier picks up a 3-second penalty going through that technical part of the circuit as well then, so the penalty is starting to roll in here in Miami so far. Unfortunately for 5 drivers, they picked up a 3-second penalty. Then as Kiki picks up a penalty as well, then that is 6 drivers, sorry. So as Moomin Ninja has retired on track as well then, goodness me. A VSC has been brought out then. A VSC, I think, for Moomin's car then, it's in the underpass somewhere. It's disappeared now, but it's in the underpass somewhere, that's all we know. But yes, interesting stuff indeed. Didn't see what happened then to Moomin as well. Then he's had an issue, but there we go. Then Farf has pitted then under this VSC, so a very early stop then from the medium compound tyres. Will we see some more activity in the box then? Speed Kai calling it down the soft compound tyres is coming in as well. Everyone else is staying out, it looks like. Then Mumford might take the opportunity though, but he's of course on fresher tyres compared to everybody else then after stopping under the first VSC. Second VSC of the evening on lap 12 then into the box then for medium compound tyres for Speed Kai, hard compound tyres for Farf, as he gets himself back underway, then cutting the pit exit line, so that will be a warning for him, and potentially could be a penalty if he does that again then on his next outing in the pit lane, that is. Speed Kai coming back out then, P17, then he's on medium compound tyres and back underway, so let's see what he can do here in the rest of this race. Then DRS enabled, then no drive-through penalties then on this occasion, which is good. And Balin said, hi guys, haven't seen you in a long time, I've been away, is there any opportunity I would love to compete somewhere that suits my pace? Yes, of course then, I will quickly send you a Discord link then, as Cam has got himself past Hungry Styles then. Bear me 1 second, I think if I do this, Balin, you will be able, dear, sorry, I can't spell. I think if I do that, then you will get a link in the Discord, link to the Discord, sorry, from the comment section. But if you scroll into the, oh my goodness me, what's happened there? I thought there was some ghosting going on there, but no, it's just Jinner and Sick as Muck then side by side battling away. Jinner up into P4 now, passes the Ferrari driver, then Young Lights has got himself through into P3, and my goodness me, so far so good then. Yes, if the Discord thing doesn't work, then Ballot, then you can try and look in the links in the description then, and in the description of the video, or of the stream I should say, there will be a link to join us, or a link, or somehow a way of contacting us then to get yourself into the division. So don't worry about that, we will get you back in. So there we go then. But yes, if you just look in the description, there's I think a link to our website, then you can sign up then through there, and then that gives you a Discord link once you've completed the tick boxes and that sort of thing. But there we go then. Back in the action then, lap 13 then. We are a quarter of the way through, I think, so far. Unfortunately, 2 retirements in this race already as well. Then Vessia's got himself past Coop then. Favre pitting then for the fresh hard compound tyres a bit earlier than he probably would want to in this race there, but we'll have to wait and see if it's going to pay out in his favour or not though. Vessia then up into P6 there with his teammate pitting as well then, now trying to get himself into the range then of we've got more yellow flags then somewhere. There's more problems. It's for Styles then. Styles is having an issue out there, and goodness me, he's just cut off the Aston Martin of Mumford then. I'm not quite sure what Styles is doing then. He's just getting in the way then of the Aston Martin then. Jenner's got himself back past Young Lights. Has he into the penultimate turn then? Yes, he's got the position just about, I think. Trying to keep that car under control then. He has got the position then just about into the podium places once again then for Jinner then, but he's still going to be under attack and then from the Haas and from the Ferrari, as yeah, I think Styles is having an issue out there. He's got himself back underway then as Speed Car then of course has pitted for a fresh set of medium compound tyres. Here comes Coop then. Coop and Vessia then, these two battling away side by side then. Coop having to back out then because he didn't want to risk his front wing then and potentially a spin as well then, but he has backed off then. Vessia of course has picked up a penalty then. We'll have a look at the penalty situation just a bit, just quickly now. 3 seconds for Young Lights, Vessia, Serious Mushroom, Kiki and Mumford then. So penalties are starting to roll in here as we get ourselves through and into this race further along then. Here comes Young Lights then, who is further along then, looking for an attack then for the podium places here on the Mercedes of Jinner then. Can he get himself down the inside then? DRS is activated and here comes Sick as Muck as well then on the outside, but he thinks better of it. Then these two go side by side into the final corner, the heavy braking zone I should say then, of Sector 2. But unlike Magnussen and Hamilton, they have got themselves through side by side and in one piece, which is good stuff indeed. And long may that continue. Lap 14 has commenced then. Reflection picks up a penalty. Unfortunately for Reflection, he's P8 then. He is currently under pressure from the McLaren pair who are charging down after him. But so far so good then. There we go. So Sick as Muck has lost out. What's going on here? It's going to be 3 wide into the penultimate corner. That is going to be very dodgy indeed. Young Lights then has conceded. I think he's conceded, but I'm not quite sure. Now, oh God, and there we go then, side by side once again then, and into the wall then for Jinner, who has got himself a front wing damage then as well. Then Sick as Muck then has cut off the Haas car, I think, of Young Lights there. And that has been very costly indeed for all 3 drivers. I think not for Young Lights. I don't think maybe he has got some wing damage there, but Sick as Muck then has got some wing damage for sure. That left end plate is missing on that Ferrari now, and I think Jinner has come off at the same issue then as well. There's front wing damage for Jinner as well. Then a big smash indeed then, but I think Young Lights was trying to make a move on Sick as Muck then, it looked like, and was potentially going to go through past Jinner, but Jinner came across then and Sick as Muck came across at the same time, and that sandwiched Young Lights in between there, and that didn't work, as you can tell. But there we are then. That is the situation. The Speed Car's got himself past Hungry Styles then. Hungry Styles then having a few issues out there. Reflection's been passed by Serious Mushroom. Now Mushroom up into P8 here. And on the attack now with Jinner's front wing damage and potentially Sick as Muck then having to pit as well. Then he might be able to get himself a few extra places here in this next lap or two. So far so good for Mushroom then. Ginger Rage is in the top 10. This is going to be scary stuff indeed if he can stay there. Lap 15 of 57. There's still a long way to go for Ginger Rage, but he's doing a great job out there as well in the McLaren. So far so good then. Coop on the attack now with Vessia. Then they're catching up to the back of Sick as Muck, who of course has got that damage, then that left end plate damage, then they might not be aware of. So they have to be very, very careful of the Ferrari, then, who's staying out then as well, which is usually not a good idea. But there we are. So there we go, in towards turn 1 now, and into the pits comes Jinner. Then Jinner is in the box then, so calling it a day then after having that issue then at the beginning of lap 15. It is a wing change then for Jinner as well then. I think it was a very quick wing change if it was. No, he's back underway with the left end plate missing as well then. So potentially it's not enough then for to warrant, I should say, a wing change, as we've got yellow flags on the first straight. It's Kiki. Kiki's had an issue there somewhere. Where is he? I can't even see. There he is. Yeah, he's gone driven into the wall then, has Kiki, unfortunately. Yes, not having a great time out there, unfortunately, is Kiki then. So he has got himself back underway and back in this race. Then Vessia's got himself past Sick as Muck then, has he? Yes, he has then into the end of Sector 2, then into the technical part of the circuit. This is where the wing damage is going to be very, very costly indeed for Sick as Muck then. Vessia now up into P4 then. Unfortunately for Kiki then trying to soldier on in this race, then he's not had a great time out there. Farf's got himself past Vintage into P11, then of course Farf is on the freshest tyres. Then Ginger Rage has picked up a penalty. That is bad news for Ginger Rage. He is going to be in the range of Versio New Zealand Cam. Sorry, I'm just going to call him Cam, as Sick as Muck is back past Vessia, then down the back straight then. Doesn't matter about wing damage, and he's got himself back up into a P4 then in the Ferrari. Good stuff indeed then, as we cruise then into lap 17 then. How many laps is that? 40 laps remain after this one. So we've still got quite a few to go after this lap as well then, as we cruise now on to lap 17. Then Sick as Muck then's got himself back up into P4. Vessia then down to P5. Then Coop is in the vicinity as well. Then he is holding on those medium compound tyres in the Williams car very nicely indeed. Then 5 seconds the gap then. We haven't seen Troy, but here he is. Then 5 seconds the gap then for Troy to Equaz in P2. Then another 7 seconds back to Young Lights now for Equaz as well. Then these two looking quite comfortable out here as well. Then Jinner picks up a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I think, yeah, he was trying to get that car slowed down. He's back in for a wing change, I think, again, because it didn't change his wing on the last attempt then. So you always need to make sure that you set your wing to be changed, as Kiki is also into the box then, and changing that front wing as well then, as he's Jinner's just come out ahead of him there as well. Just about, that is. Yes, so a wing change then for Kiki as well. Then this time Kiki has got himself a wing set to change, so that is all good and good in the hood. So he doesn't have to go back round again. Then Mumford and Vintage and switching places. Then Mumford now ahead of the Red Bull driver then into Sector 2, as we've got more yellow flags. Then it's for Cam. Cam was doing a great job then, and he's had a problem there somewhere in this part of the circuit. I'm not sure if he was on the attack then, but he has lost out then to the top 10 just about then, with a few seconds out as well there with that spin, with that issue. We don't know what it was exactly, but there we go. Unfortunately for Cam then, he's got to get himself back underway then. Here we go then. Vessia now takes P4 away from Sick as Muck then, as we cruise then onto lap 18 as well now. So we are flying through the laps here, but unfortunately for Sick as Muck then, I'm not quite sure if that wing damage is as noticeable then as it is then on our screens then, but he is definitely missing a left end plate then, which is going to affect his aero performance, and especially through here Sector 1 and through Sector 3 as well then, or the end of Sector 2 I should say. But he is still soldiering on out there very nicely indeed. Then potentially will change that wing when he gets into the pit lane, but at the moment, oh my goodness me, I thought that was I think he was lagging then, but I can't tell because he was all over the place there. But he has got himself pointed in the right direction, thankfully, so good stuff indeed. And cruising back underway. So like I said, Sick as Muck, Vessia and Coop now, this trio then starting to battle then for the podium places then. Well, not podium places just yet then, but they've got to get themselves past Young Lights as well first. Vessia holds on to P4 for the time being then into the technical part of the lap as well now, as we've got Serious Battle then catching up to this battle. Then Reflection in P8, then Ginger Rage then in P9, and he's holding on to the position for this position, the top 10 position for the time being then. Even with the penalty situation then, it is not in Farf's favour then to get himself past the Ginger Rage, but of course Farf has pitted already then, so he's going to be gaining a lot of time then on the older medium compound tyres compared to the McLarens and to the Mercedes ahead of him as well. Then Sick as Muck is back past Vessia as these two resume their battle. Coop, I think, just waiting in the wings then, waiting patiently then for Coop, and potentially harvesting some ERS, then getting himself ready for an attack then when the pit stop phase does ring out then. But so far, nobody in the lead pack, nobody in the top 10 are coming into the pit lane at this stage. it is all good then. We will send my request and hope to race again then, says Ballot, and then good stuff indeed. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon, as Young Lights has left the session and Cam is in the box then. Cam has pitted, then he's had a drive-through penalty then, and now he is pitting then for a new set of tyres. Then Young Lights, who has had some sort of technical difficulties then, I think he had the same thing in China as well, then he has left the session. Now Sick as Muck and Coop, as Vessia has been passed by both of them. I've missed that completely as I was reading the comment section, but there we go then. All three of them now could potentially put a pounce for that podium place here, as Young Lights is not in the car then to do anything about it. Then Jinder has set the fastest lap of the race then to get himself back underway in this one after that wing damage as well. Then here comes the trio of battling cars then, trying to get themselves into that podium place onto lap 19 as well. Then there is the stricken Haas car, unfortunately, of Young Lights, who is not in the session. Then he cannot compete, cannot control the car until he gets himself back in the session then, and Sick as Muck takes away that position. Then P3 now for the Ferrari then, as we go onto the back straight here. I think Coop and Vessia then will also gain in the next couple of corners as well. Why, says Young Lights as well. Unfortunately, yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened there to Young Lights. Hopefully he can get himself back in the session then from the older invite then, as we are waiting for that Haas car, we're waiting for that Young Lights to get himself back in the car, and that Haas car to not go ghosting again. But he has been passed, unfortunately, by Sick as Muck, Coop and Vessia now as well then, and Serious Mushroom is very close indeed, and Serious Mushroom is actually gaining on the cars ahead of him as well here. Serious Mushroom is in a very good contention then, potentially to get himself into this fight then for a podium place, as Young Lights has joined the session once again then, but unfortunately it is a bit too late then. He's lost out 4 places, I think then, unfortunately, and he might lose out another place here as well then to Reflection, and potentially to Ginger Age as well, which would be terrible news indeed. But yes, very unfortunate then for Young Lights. Hope he can get himself back in the car. He's back in the session now. Serious Mushroom is only a second away then from this trio then, battling for the final podium place then. If Serious Mushroom can get himself within DRS range, he could potentially bring Reflection, Young Lights and Ginger Rage back into this fight as well then. Young Lights, I think, is back in the car. I think he's back in the car, and he can get himself back underway as well then on the hard compound tyres. Then Speed Kai's got himself past Vintage, then up into P12. Then of course Speed Kai pitting earlier under the VSC, and he is on much fresher tyres compared to Vintage at this stage. Then can he get himself into the points pen positions? I think he can very soon, with more pit stops to come then for drivers in the top 9. Well, no drivers in the top 9 have actually pitted at all then, so he's going to have to get himself, he will get himself some positions from that, as Vess has got himself back past Coop and into P4 then, locking up in the background. I think there was as Mushroom's got himself, but definitely within DRS range now as well. This trio, as Ginger Rage's had a mistake then, and that's going to be costly indeed. He's coming in the pit lane as Ginger Rage then, into the box then, as we've got some more activity. Vess here in the box then, Coop in the box, and Ginger Rage in the box as well. All medium compound tyres, 20 laps then on the medium compound tyres then for those 3 drivers. Let's see what they're going to go on to next is the question. Back underway for hard compound tyres then for Ginger Rage, then soft compound tyres for Vessia, hards for Coop as well then. So that is an interesting strategy call then for the trio. Then all sorts of different compounded tyres then going on that car. Hungry Styles carrying on then, coming out of turn 1. Then he's ahead of Ginger Rage then, but he's behind Coop and Vessia for the time being. That is, as we go ourselves through lap 21 here. Out in front, 7 seconds the gap then for Troy, who was cruising out there in the Miami Grand Prix in the Kick Sauber, and unfortunately for German then, he was going to try and take to the track then for this one, but unfortunately could not. He's got his birthday celebrations tomorrow, so he's would have been winning this race quite comfortably as well. It looks like then 9 seconds back to Sick as Muck then for Equaz, so it's quite comfortable then for the top 2. As I said, Sick as Muck has got that wing damage, and Serious Mushroom is in the fight then, of course, after Vessia pitted, after Coop pitted, and of course after Ginger Rage pitted. Then Serious Mushroom up into P4 now, and trying to chase down Sick as Muck then for that final podium place. Then Reflection doing a great job on the medium compound tyres. Young Lights is back in the session then, in trying to battle back in this one. Farf is 3 seconds behind on 11 lap fresher tyres at this stage, so it is not looking too bad for Farf as well then. Into the pits comes Reflection, then he's calling it a day on the medium compound tyres, just 1 lap later than Ginger Age and Coop and Vessia then, so that is good stuff indeed. Then Farf takes P6, then Mumford of course will carry on into P7 as well. Then Speed Kai, this is where he might start to pick up a few places then as well for Speed Kai, as he gets himself into P8 as well, then onto the start finish straight on lap 22. There's of course still plenty of action, of pit lane action I should say, to come along for the likes of Young Light, Serious Mushroom and Sick as Muck then. I think that might be within range of Speed Kai, potentially the top two out of range then for most of the grid then as it stands there, but we'll have to wait and see, because we saw Sticker's Muck then storm through the field from quite a long way back then in the final stint of the Chinese Grand Prix to win the Grand Prix as well then. So we'll have to wait and see if anything else similar to that might happen as well then. Vintage out of the box in medium compound tyres back on the Red Bull car, then Styles also in the pits as well. There's a double stack down at the Red Bull team, then hard compound tyres going on Hungry Styles' car and back underway. Goodness me. Oh, and breathe. So Serious Mushroom now on the back of the Ferrari, then looking to fight for that podium place here as well. Then we did say a McLaren might win this race, and McLaren podium then would still be a fantastic achievement then, and Mushroom is looking to challenge for that podium place here as he goes on the attack then down the back straight towards the penultimate corner now. So far so good then. This is so unlucky from Young Lights, and thankfully he is back in the session now as well. Then Serious Mushroom looks for a move but doesn't go for it in the end. He backs off there. Young Lights then is back into P5 then, of course, after getting himself back in the car. Then he's 1.8 seconds behind these two battling ahead of him. Then Farf 3 seconds off the back then of the top 5, but of course on much fresher tyres as we've said already. But here comes Serious Mushroom then on the attack, then down the inside, not quite then on the Ferrari of Sticker's Muck. Then he thinks twice about it then and backs off at this stage. And Young Lights then flying over the curbs and into sector 1, over turns 2 and 3 then, keeping that car pointed in the right direction just about. Then Jinner's got himself past Vintage, has he? Yes, he has, then with some DRS, I think. In towards into P14, in towards the penultimate corner then as well. So far so good then. Troy is halfway through the lap already then. He has got a 7.6 second gap to Equaz in P2 then. There's a 9 second gap back to Sticker's Muck then for Equaz in that Williams car then. And then we've got these two here then. Here comes Serious Mushroom then. He's got some DRS, he's got some ERS. It doesn't look like it though, but he's got some ERS potentially for the attack then. He's got the inside then, he's got the position, he's got the podium place, and unfortunately we've got a yellow flag then. It's for Kiki. No, it's not. Yeah, it's for Kiki then. Unfortunately, Kiki's had an issue at the final couple of corners. Back underway once again then. Goodness me, I'm getting a bit sweaty here. There we go then. Serious Mushroom passes Sticker's Muck then, and look at him go. He's almost got a 9/10 of a second gap then. Sticker's Muck was going to have some DRS then down towards the penultimate corner then, but can Mushroom pull out the way, pull out of that 1 second window? Into the pit comes the race leader, and that is Troy. Then will Equaz come in as well? Then Equaz also following him in. I think Serious Mushroom might take the lead of this Grand Prix here as we cruise then into lap 24. Sticker's Muck into the box as well, then calling it a day on the medium compound tyres also then. So Serious Mushroom then is going to take the race lead here in Miami, which is brilliant stuff indeed then for the Mushroom. And how long can he hold on to it is the question then, as Troy coming out the pit lane now. He's behind Young Lights, just about behind Young Lights. As Young Lights has carried on as well then, 23 laps tyre difference between the top 2 and P3 then. Troy then is going to have to get those tyres warmed up so he can attack that Haas car as quickly as possible then, with Farf waiting in the wings as well then. Farf is into P4 now with the pit stop phases. Mumford yet to pit, he's done 19 laps on the medium compound tyres. Equaz just coming out in P6 then. He is of course a bit further back then than Troy was before the pit stop phases as well then. Speed Car now up into P7 then, looking good indeed then, of course on a different strategy slightly, so we'll have to wait and see how it's going to play out then for Speed Car. Then Troy passes Young Lights then into P2, only 2.2 seconds off the lead here as well. Jinner is retired in the box, then Jinner is pit and quit unfortunately, so that is his race done and dusted here in this Miami Grand Prix. Then Jinner out of the race then on lap 24 then, almost at halfway distance in this Grand Prix, as Troy now 2 seconds behind. Can he get himself into the range of Serious Mushroom? Then when will Serious Mushroom have to pit then is the question. When will Young Lights have to pit as well? Then we'll have to wait and see how long those hard compound tyres can last. Because we haven't seen anybody get the full stint out of the hard compound tyres just yet then, so we'll have to find out which strategy is going to be the best then, and which tyre compound is going to be the best throughout this Grand Prix as well. It is unknown pretty much until we get into the Grand Prix, although some drivers probably know. I don't know at all because I have no knowledge at all, but there we go, that is just me. So there we are then. Farf has got himself into DRS range. That's going to be very good news indeed for Farf to pull himself along in this one. The Young Lights notice we've got Ginger Age and Sticker's Muck, then Ginger Age and Sticker's Muck then having a battle here onto lap 25 then, side by side. No, Sticker's Muck has gone through on the soft compound tyres, he's taken the position. Then Speed Kai has lost out to Vessia, who's on the soft compound tyres as well then. Pretty very wise not to battle then those on the soft compound tyres and just trying to follow them through here at this stage of the race then, because they're on much fresher soft compound tyres compared to everybody else as well. Well, there's only 2 on the soft compound tyres, one's on 4 lap old tyres and Sticker's Muck is on 1 lap old tyres. Vessia is the other one on 4 lap old tyres as well there. Farf has got himself up into the podium places now. He's passing Young Lights then, and up into P3 now, unfortunately for everybody else. We don't want to listen to Farf on the podium for sure, so we will hope that he has to pit again, but so far so good then. 1.2 seconds the gap between Troy and Mushroom now as well. Then if Farf goes for the move then on Troy, I'm sure he's going to be very happy to do so. But Troy needs to get himself in that DRS window then of the McLaren ahead, who's currently the race leader. Then Mushroom has been leading the race then for the last few laps, I should say. There is DRS then for Sick as Muck and Coop pick up penalties. Goodness me, what have they been up to? They've gone through the chicane underneath the underpass then, and both of them have picked up a penalty then, a piece under that part of the circuit. Then Troy now in DRS range then of the McLaren of Mushroom, then on to lap 26 then of 57. Then here we go then, will Troy go for the race lead then in towards turn 1? Oh my goodness me, it looked like he was going to go into the back of the McLaren at one point, but he does take back the race lead here as well. Then Mushroom has been passed by the Kick Sauber then, and now has got Farf in the Alpine behind for some company as well. Then Sick as Muck, that's the fastest lap of racing into the top 10 there for Sick as Muck. Then Cooper's had an issue somewhere, I think, because I'm pretty sure, oh, he's been passed, sorry, he's been passed by Sick as Muck on the soft compound tyres, that's what. And Ginger Rage then is waiting in the wings, then he's just outside the top 10 once again then for Ginger Rage, but still no drive-through penalties then under the VSCs, which is fantastic stuff indeed for Ginger Rage. The top 4 all within DRS range here, which is very promising stuff indeed. Then here comes Farf on the attack then on the Mushroom. Can Mushroom stave off the attack then? Yes, he can then, into the end of Sector 2 then, coming through into the technical part of the lap now. Of course, there's much older tyres on the McLaren and the Haas of Young Lights then compared to compared to Troy, who's only done 2 laps on the hards, and compared to Farf, who's done 14 laps on those hards as well then. So it's a bit of a different strategy then out there. A Reflection has been passed by Sick as Muck on the soft compound tyres, and Ginger Rage has got himself past Coop in the McLaren then. And up into P11 now. Where will the battles unfold then, as Farf is going for a battle then with Serious Mushroom? Then he's got past the McLaren just about, I think, then into the penultimate turn then. Yes, he is up into P2 and back underway then, and trying to go and attack Troy. Then of course Troy has got much younger tyres, but of course the much faster car then is in the hands of the Alpine, I should say, compared to the Kick Sauber, that is, as we fly on to lap 27. Then Serious Mushroom and Young Lights still staying out then, so they don't want to come into the pits too early, it doesn't look like. So that's so far so good then out there for those 2 drivers as well. Then they are soldiering on there. Mumford is also soldiering on. He's done 22 laps then, 23 laps at the end of this one, and on those medium compound tyres, and that car is looking very squirrely indeed. And probably not too fond of being on these old tyres right now, especially through this section here, where it is very, very hard on the tyre surface as well. Then especially coming through these parts of these very long, fast-paced, very long corners as well. Then very difficult to negotiate on very worn tyres as well. Vesey then up into P7, then he's on soft compound tyres. Then Speed Kai holding on then with some DRS then to the Alpine driver, then will help drag himself along. Then Sick as Muck has joined the battle here as well as Reflection. Ginger Rage just outside the top 10 then, and he's just outside of DRS range as well then from Reflection as well. Then he's getting himself back in that window. Then Coop then is into a fight then with the Ginger Rage, and that could get very messy indeed then, especially with Ginger Rage involved. So there we are. Ginger's wheel snapped, says Ginger in the comment section, so that is why he had to retire, unfortunately, so that is bad news indeed. But there we go, lap 27 of 57, 30 laps remain at the end of this one. Then Farf is now out of DRS range of Troy, just about by 1/10 of a second. But it's enough then for Troy to be a bit more comfortable now, as Speed Kai and Sick as Muck then and Vessia all involved in a battle here as well. Then into the penultimate corner, then Speed Kai has been passed by Sick as Muck, but he's got himself past Vessia at the same time. So I think Sick as Muck going for a double overtake then. Here comes Vessia then onto the main straight and back past the Haas driver, then down to P9 and then for Speed Kai. Oh dear, he's stuck his nose in there, and I think that's going to be very dangerous indeed, because that's opened the door for a Reflection as well here, who's on much fresher medium compound tyres. And yeah, I think Speed Kai then getting a bit desperate, then going for that move. Then he needs to just back off. Then of course those drivers ahead of him, those 2 ahead of him now on the soft compound tyre, are going to be much faster compared to his 16 lap old mediums. So he doesn't need to fight at this stage. He just needs to get the toe then from those drivers ahead. Then Jenna leaves the session then as well. Of course he is out of the session then, retiring in the pit lane. And Serious Mushroom back up into P2, passes Farf then, and Serious Mushroom is still on the charge then for a podium place, I think, at this rate, with a fantastic driver on those hard compound tyres so far. Looking good then. He's got a penalty to his name saying then, but of course there's got quite a few drivers out there with the penalties now, so it's not too shabby, I should say. Far all over the back then. Young Lights is 2 seconds back. He's dropped off then in the Haas. Then Mumford is 5 seconds back from the trio ahead as well. They're unfortunate for Mumford. He's soldiering on old medium compound tyres who are not going to be at their best at this stage. Then Serious Mushroom defending the inside then into the penultimate model, but Favre is already through and up into P2. 2 seconds the gap into the race lead now as we get ourselves into the second half of the race here, which is fantastic. So far, so good. So Reflection back past Speed Kai then. Speed Kai starting to drop off the back then after the, well, he's got 10 laps older tyres compared to Reflection, so that is the difference then in tyre wear that is affecting that. But if he can hold on to the top 10, then use the DRS then just to pull himself along then in this race. Can get some points then at the end of the final stint, and I think he's going to go for another set of medium compound tyres potentially towards the end of this Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see what the strategy is going to be then for the Speed Kai. Ginger Rage is there, is 1.8 seconds behind the top 10. Unfortunately, he's dropping further back then with the DRS then for the trio just ahead of him here. Well, the quartet just ahead of him here, I should say. Coop then just waiting in the wings as well, then waiting to make a move then on the McLaren of Ginger Rage soon as well. Then Hungry Styles and Vintage soldiering on, and then Kiki carrying on as well. Then potentially a safety car can get Kiki back in this race. Then we'll have to wait and see what is going to happen out here as well. Then Serious Rushman is back behind Favre and just trying to hold on then to the Alpine car. I think at this stage then, of course, the tyre difference is pretty massive indeed then compared to the Alpine. 11 laps difference then in favour of Favre's Alpine car. There we go then, Sickers Muck then passing Reflection, I think it was, as we go into the underpass section once again. Then lap 29 of 57 has commenced. There's very close to the wall there for Reflection, but making sure that wing does not go into it first then, and making sure that he straightens it up just in time then. Good stuff. As Reflection then is on the charge and trying to get himself into contention with Sickers Muck then. How long will the soft compound tyres last? We saw Speed Kai do 10 laps then, but of course he did pit under the VSC at the very beginning of the race then, so potentially they could go longer than 10 laps. We'll have to wait and see then what their what the preferred strategy is then for the soft compound runners, and what they will go on to next as well. Then 18 laps now for Speed Kai. Then he's soldiering on out there, but he's now going to be under pressure then, I think, from behind rather than looking to attack in this race in the next few laps or so. Then Mumford needs to pit then, same for Young Lights, same for Serious Mushroom as well. I'm pretty sure Favre will have to pit towards the end of the Grand Prix as well. Then he's got a different offset then in terms of tyre life, but I think it's not going to be enough then to get himself to the end of the Grand Prix unless it's a very big push indeed then, and he's been holding on, he's been saving those tyres as well then for a long duration of this race as well. We'll have to wait and see. Back into this fight as well though. These three, I think, these four are going to carry on their fight, I think, for the rest of the race. It looks like they've been brilliant out there as well. Everyone's been brilliant in terms of the battling as well, as far as I've been able to see, which is brilliant stuff indeed as well, of course. And Speed Kai then on the attack into the underpass section once again. Then here we go then, as Vessia then, the 9-lap-old soft compound tyres, they will be the first indicator of what we need to do, what he needs to do in terms of a pit stop then, if he can hold on then to the trio. But unfortunately he can't hold on to the trio because he's lost out to that 1 second window. Will he have some DRS then to try and battle back into this DRS window? Not quite then. So Speed Kai going to go on the attack here. Can he go for a move then into the penultimate corner? Not quite then, unfortunately, for Speed Kai. Then he sits behind. But of course, if he can get himself in that DRS, then can he get himself past Vessia and then back on the attack of the Mercedes of Reflection and the Ferrari of Sickers Muck then, who have joined up to the back of Equaz now as well in P6. Then they're in the DRS range now of Equaz in P6, who was P2 in this race, then potentially is still a net P2 in this race as well. But of course, Sickers Muck has something to say about that as well. Then potentially Reflection could say something about that. Same for Vessia and same for Speed Kai also. So it is not all done and dusted out here. Ginger Rage has picked up the pace, then almost back in 1 second window of Speed Kai, then potentially getting himself back in the top 10 positions here. Young Lights 2 seconds back from Mushroom then, as Mushroom has dropped off then far for the time being, and those 30-lap-old hard compound tyres, I think, starting to get towards the end of their best life then, as Speed Kai has got himself past Vessia then up into P9 then, and Sickers Muck has passed Equaz down the back straight into P6 as well then for the Ferrari. Then he's flying out there. I don't think he's actually changed his front wing then. The left end plate is still missing then on that Ferrari, but it doesn't seem to be affecting him on the soft compound tyres at all then for Sick as Muck. He is flying out there very nicely indeed. Then Equaz now dropping down to P7. Reflection back in DRS range then in P8. Then Speed Kai up into P9, but he's knocking himself back in DRS then of the three ahead of him then. So unfortunately, he's going to be back under the attack then of Ginger Rage. Then Ginger Rage is on the attack then of Vessia, and potentially can go for a move then on Speed Kai as well down the inside. Oh, it's going to be tight indeed. Then he's thinking about it. Then his Mushroom is in the pit lane. Mushroom is in the pit lane. Then here comes Ginger Rage. Then onto the main straight. Then he sits behind the Haas driver. Then, but he's got himself past Vessia. Then very nicely done indeed. Here comes Ginger Rage into turn 1. Then can he make the move? Then not quite. Then he stays in P9, but he has got himself up into P9, I should say. Then with Mushroom in the box. Then Mushroom pitting then for medium compound tyres. He's going to have to do 25 laps then to the end of the Grand Prix on those medium compound tyres, if that is what his strategy is then to get to the end of this race then on his new set. Then interesting choices then indeed. Then 31 laps then on the hards, 25 laps then on the mediums is the strategy then for Serious Mushroom, it looks like. Goodness me. Here comes Ginger Rage. Then Ginger Rage is going to be on the attack for another overtake here as well. Here comes the McLaren then on Speed Kai. DRS activated, then DRS flying open. Then as here comes the McLaren then down towards the heavy braking zone of Sector 2. Down the inside, he's gone very deep then, and Speed Car trying to go for the moves, the switchback then on the McLaren, but not quite then. And now it looks like Speed Car and Vessia then are battling away then as well. The Ginger Rage up into P8, then flying through then into P8 then as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed. Speed Car dropping down then. Those medium compound tyres starting to get towards the end of their best life, I think here. Mumford's still doing. He's done 27 laps on those medium compound tyres, has Mumford, so he is flying very nicely out there. But of course, we'll have to pit again very shortly, because I think you might get a puncture otherwise. I don't think we'll be able to get to the end of the Grand Prix from here on those tyres for sure. As there we go then, Speed Kai can't get himself back past Ginger Rage, and Ginger Rage has got some pace in that McLaren now, and firing up those hard compound tyres and flying off into the distance then as well. Then Speed Kai, oh dear, Vessia then lagging around as well then, unfortunately with Vessia. They need to get that sorted. Goodness me. But I think Vessia has to pit very soon. Oh god. Yeah. Brilliant. Vessia has to pit very soon, I think, then, because those soft compound tyres, it seems, then are starting to fade now compared to those on the hards and the mediums around it as well. Now, even the Speed Car then on the medium compound tyres, 21 laps old, then has been able to get himself past and away from the Alpine attack. Then Ginger Rage has got a 2-second gap then to Reflection. Can he get himself back in this battle then as well then with the Mercedes and the Ferrari of Sick as Muck then? But here comes Reflection. He's on the battle then for that P6 position. Then up into P6 goes the Mercedes driver. Then he takes the position away from the Ferrari and up into the points then. Oh, sorry, up into P6, I should say. Goodness me. Up into P6 then very nicely indeed. And now onto the back of Equaz then. Can he hold on and can he fight for that P5 position as well then? Equaz has caught up to Mumford then. Of course, Mumford is probably a bit of a rolling roadblock at this stage then, unfortunately for Mumford. It's not a case of his pace then, it's a case of his tyres are at that stage of this race as well. Now 29 laps at the end of this one then on those medium compound tyres is a pretty good stint indeed. Then Equaz back up in P4 then. Sick as Muck getting back past Perfection as well. And into P6 once again then. Mumford, I think, needs to pit. Yes, he does pit then. Finally calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. What a stint indeed then. 29 laps then. Styles picked up a 3-second penalty as well, unfortunately for Styles then. That is going to be costly indeed then. As I thought it was Ginger Rage falling down the order. It's Ginger Rage, Kiki picked up a penalty as well then. Ginger Rage then P7 then for the McLaren driver, then flying very nicely out there then. And will he get to the end of the race then on those hard compound tyres is the question. He's got to do 24 more laps then, and that would put him into the range of a I can't do the maths, 37 lap old hard compound tyres. I'm not quite sure that's going to be the best strategy for him, to be honest. He might have to come into the box then and put on a set of soft compound tyres at some point, but nonetheless, what do I know? Reflection then on the attack then, getting himself into the battle once again with Sick as Muck, then down the back straight, then DRS then from the Mercedes driver. This time takes the inside again and looking like Sick as Muck then around the outside, then very nicely done indeed to hold off the Mercedes then into the technical part of the circuit. Stays P5 then for the Ferrari, and very well done indeed then. Brilliant stuff then from Sick as Muck. to hold on. Oh, goodness me, he's clouted the wall, though, of that right end plate. He's taken a bit of a pounding then, as, goodness me, as I thought there was going to be more wing damage then for Sicker's Muck. That might be an indicator then for Sicker's Muck to get off those soft compound tyres, but Vessia still soldiering on out there on the soft compound tyres. Speed Car has dropped back down behind Vessia and behind Coop as well then. But he's now on the attack then. Here comes Speed Car then, getting himself past 2 then into the penultimate corner then on lap 34. Onto lap 35 very shortly then. But oh goodness me, losing the back end then is Speed Car. Into the pits comes Vessia then. He's calling it a day finally then on the 14 lap old soft compound tyres. And onto a new strategy then as well then. As goodness me, Speed Car then trying to defend from Coop then. But Cam is also in the vicinity then. Coop is up into P8 then ahead of the Haas driver I should say then, sorry. Oh, goodness me, Cam then almost losing the back end there as well then, onto turn 3. Right then, lap 35 has commenced then. Out of the pits comes Vessia on medium compound tyres, then medium to the end, then 22 laps or so from here. Of course, the cars are starting to be lighter as well. Then Speed Car has been passed by Cam, I think. Yes, he has. And Mushroom now in the fight as well then. Of course, Mushroom is on the freshest tyres then compared to these two ahead of him as well, so he might be wanting to make some hay very quickly. Goodness me, it's 3 wide then down the back straight, then 3 wide into, oh my goodness me, I thought it was going to be very close indeed. And Cam, oh my god, has pushed Mushroom off the circuit almost there. And goodness me, a bit over aggressive then from Cam. I think he didn't realise that Mushroom was actually on much fresher tyres, that it wasn't worth fighting that much. But nonetheless, he has fought it. So there we go. There we go then. Sicker's Muck and Reflection. Once again, these two switching places as well out there. Ginger Rage 2 seconds back then. Can't quite catch up at this stage. But if he can, then that would be very good news indeed for Ginger Rage. If he can get some DRS down the back straight, then Young Lights into the pits, then finally calling it a day. Then 35 laps, I should say, on the hard compound tyres. Ekwan's back up into the podium places now after making that position up then with a Young Light into the box. Ginger Rage up into P6 then. Scary heights then for Ginger Rage. Terrifying heights indeed. Speed Car in the pits as well then. Speed Car's done a great stint indeed then. 24 laps then on the medium compound tyres and back in the pit lane then. Mumford sets the fastest lap of the race then. He is on fresh medium compound tyres, sorry, and back underway then. Is he ahead of Young Lights then? It's side by side through turns 2 and 3 on the exit for Young Lights then. Coming out of the pit lane now, and Mumford, my goodness me then, that is not how you go through a turn side by side, but thankfully they've got themselves through unscathed. Speed Car's come out ahead of Vintage. Then of course the pit lane exit is ahead, well, it cuts turn 1, doesn't it? Similar to Belgium or that sort of track. So you don't have to worry about doing turn 1 then when you come out of the pit lane. And Speed Car then has got himself out in P13. Freshest medium compound tyres as well as his teammate Young Lights. So potentially the Haas pair could be on a bit of a charge then in this final stint of the race. Then we'll have to wait and see what they can do. But it looks like they could be challenging then for the top 10 positions very quickly indeed here. Marsky said, come on, Mushroom as well. Then Mushroom has got himself past, well, he hasn't got himself past Young Lights. Young Lights has pitted. He hasn't got himself past Cam or Coop just yet. Then, of course, the battling Coop then, the battling Cam as well. Then these two as we go through on to lap 37. Then 20 laps remain at the end of this one. And so far, it looks like Mushroom lining up a move then, and he can't quite get himself close enough then to make the move on the kick Sauber ahead of him as well then. As now they've caught up to the back of Coop then. There's a bit of defence mechanism using the DRS then down the main straight for Cam as well then, so he can try and hold on to the position then from the McLaren charging up behind as well then. Out in front then we've got Farf soldiering on out there as well. He's going to have to do another 20 laps. That'll take him 45 laps then on those hard compound tyres. I don't think that's going to be very good towards the end of the race then, put it that way. But there we are. So yeah, I think Farf might have to pit again then. Potentially we might see Cam come in the pits again as well. Potentially Vintage, potentially Kiki as well then, so, and potentially Sicker's Muck as well. So we saw Vessia pit with 14 lap old soft compound tyres. We might see Sicker's Muck back into the box then very soon in the Ferrari then for a new set of tyres as well. Then we'll have to wait and see what they're going to do or when they're going to call the strategy then, of course, because we don't know what the best strategy is. Well, from the commentary box point of view, we don't know what the best strategy is. We don't have a clue at all what's going on out there. We don't even know if it might rain later on in this race. So there we are. We'll have to just sit here and watch and wait. But Sicker's Muck has lost out to Reflection, I should say. Then Ginger Rage now on the back of the Ferrari, looking to fight for P5 here. And the yellow flags in Sector 1 for somebody. But there we go. Then we'll have to watch this battle here, because here comes Ginger Rage then on the attack then into the penultimate corner, then up into P5 then for Ginger Rage, then flying through, then Sick as Muck then losing a bit of traction. Then we've got yellow flags in the background. It's for a racing ball, I think, then of Kiki then, who is off in the wall, and I'm not quite sure what he's doing then, is Kiki then, but he's got no front wing there. And I think just trying to get himself out of the way then of the of the cars coming through. Of course, he is lapped now by Troy and Farf, unfortunately, then with that spin for the racing ball driver then. So a big shame indeed then for Kiki then. Unfortunately, it's not gone his way then in this race. But like I was saying to well, everyone at the beginning of the race, then you just got to be patient in 100% racing and take your time then, because there's still plenty of laps to go then. Even if you lose out in the first few laps, then you've got to take your time and get yourself back out under concentration and get yourself back in the race then, because there is plenty of laps to unfold. Then Serious Mushroom then passes Cam for P8, then back into the fight here for the points pair positions as well. Now Serious Mushroom then on the attack then of Coop as well, then in towards sector 2, and Cam's gone deep once again then, but this time Mushroom has fought him off then. He's got the inside next for the stadium section and keeps hold of P8 here as well then. Brilliant stuff indeed from Mushroom then, and stays in the fight then with Coop as well then. Coop then is now going to be under pressure then from a charging Mushroom then, who's on much fresher medium compound tyres compared to the 17 lap old hard compound tyres for the Williams. And let's see if Mushroom can get himself through then. Here he comes then on the attack then. Mumford going for the attack as well then on Cam, then up into P9, and Mushroom is going, oh goodness, is going for the attack then for P7 then, up into P7 now for the McLaren driver. Both McLarens looking strong out there, as Young Lights has got himself past Cam as well then. I think Cam's starting to struggle on those old medium compound tyres, potentially could pit for another set of mediums very soon then. We will wait and see then. Coop's back past Mushroom, no, the Mushroom is back past Coop as we go into turn 1 then. Brilliant stuff indeed then, these two battling away then. Mumford now into the fight as well, as Kiki is into the box in hard medium compound tyres, going on to the racing bull driver then, on the racing bull car I should say then. Good stuff indeed then. Coop then on the attack then, or sorry, has been attacked by Mushroom then and been passed by Mushroom, is on 18 lap old hard compound tyres, compared to Mumford on 5 lap old mediums and Young Lights on 3 lap old mediums right behind. I don't think it's going to be too much of a contest then for Coop then, unfortunately, but of course it could fade back into his favour then at the end of this race as well. We'll have to wait and see what the tyre strategy is going to be like then in the last few laps, of course. But we're on to lap 39 so far. Then we've got 17 or 18 laps remaining. Mumford has gone past Mushroom as well there into P7, then Mushroom back down to P8 there, unfortunately for the McLaren driver, but Mumford there on a charge then in the Aston Martin, then of course on 2 lap fresher tyres as well than Mushroom at this point of time, I should say. Well, it's going to be staying the same roughly, as each lap they do, they were going to be adding on a lap onto their tyre life, so they will roughly be about 2 laps difference between each driver I should say then, as we go through. Now Mumford on the back of Sick as Muck almost very quickly indeed. Mumford is flying out there. Sick as Muck then 15 laps on the soft compound tyres. Then when will he come into the box then to call it a day on those soft compound tyres? Not yet then. Young Lights passes Coop then into P9 then for the Haas driver then. Good stuff indeed. Where will we see more action then coming out then, as Ginger Rage then P5 as it stands there. I think he's going to be looking in his wing mirrors very soon then and seeing these drivers on the attack very shortly, and closing him down then on the fresher medium compound tyres. Then they've got to get themselves past Sick as Muck then and gain 4 seconds though, of course, but Sick as Muck is going to put up a fight, it looks like, here into sector 1. Goodness me, they're going to go side by side through there. That is definitely not an overtaking place. Mumford very over aggressive in that part, but thankfully they both kept themselves under control then, in pointing in the right direction, that is. Young Lights picks up a 3-second penalty as well then. Penalties are rolling in then, very much so in this race then, as we go through into sector 2. Lap 40 has commenced now as well then. 17 laps remain after this one as well then, as we go through the back straight. Then here comes Sick as Muck, back past Mumford I should say, and back up into P6 then as well then, ahead of the Aston Martin. There's a problem for Coop then, as Coop's had an issue then at that corner as well, then same place that Cam had an issue as well then, so potentially there's some issues going on there in that corner it seems, but I'm not quite sure if it was a helping hand then, or just an error then from the driver there, but we'll have to wait and see then. Issues once again then for Styles it looks like it, I think, but yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Out in front then, Troy are quite comfortable by 7.7 seconds then. Back to Equaz from Farf is another 10 seconds then, but of course Farf has done almost double the tyre life in terms of the racing laps, that is, on those hard compound tyres compared to Equaz then, so he might come back in his favour then. Yellow flags then. What's that? Versio Cam then has had an issue. and he's coming into the box then and calling it a day then on those medium compound tyres. Sick as Muck has been passed by Mumford again. Then these two battling away then is well, not very costly then, but it's costing them time then to Ginger Age, who's going to be very happy about this in the long run then, because Ginger Age then is not being attacked then by the drivers then around him, but he is just cruising off into the sunset then here in Miami. Not Mumford, sorry, Serious Mushroom then down the inside then, and so is Young Lights then. Sick as Muck then letting two drivers through, and that part of the circuit there indicates his tyres are a bit too old at this stage. Karen coming out of the pit lane then, he's in P13 on the soft compound tyres and back underway then. Will be very fast on those soft compound tyres. We'll wait and see what he can do then. Can he get himself back in the top 10? Of course, no penalties for Cam, so there's quite a few penalties ahead of him as well then, so he might be able to claw himself back into the points pen positions here as well then, with some good laps then in this latter part of the Grand Prix. So far so good then. Out in front then, Reflection might have to pit. I think Ginger Age should be safe potentially. We'll have to wait and see then. Mumford, Serious Mushroom and Young Lights can go to the end for sure. Then Sick as Muck might have to pit again as well in this race very soon. Yellow flags. It's for Kiki, I think, just getting out of the way then of the other drivers coming through then on their lead lap then into lap 42 then goes Troy, leading very comfortably indeed. Then Serious Mushroom has been passed by Young Lights up into P7 now for the Haas driver then, passing the McLaren then. Sick as Muck then is coming in the pit lane now, calling it a day then on the soft compound tyres. He's going to have to do 15 laps of racing on the next set of tyres. Then Coop back up into P9, back up into the points pen positions, I should say. Vessia then P11 then will come into the points pen positions as well, as will Speed Kai then. Good stuff indeed then. Sick as Muck onto a soft set of compound once again then, so double soft stint then for the Ferrari driver. Let's see what he comes out, or where he comes out, and where will he be then in relation to the rest of the field, and how far has he got to fight then to get himself back into the top 10 as well. 7 seconds or so is the gap then. It looks like good stuff indeed. Speedcar doing a good job then. He's got no penalties then. Of course, is just outside that DRS range of Vessia, who is currently in the top 10. Oh dear, Ginger Rage has had an issue. Oh no, he was going for an overtake, sorry, with Ginger Age for the P4. Sorry, Ginger Age, I just immediately thought it was an issue. But there he is, he's on the attack then with Reflection then. He's got himself into DRS range now of the Mercedes. There is Equaz in the background, I should say then. I was going to say the foreground, but that's the wrong way around. He is 2 seconds ahead of Reflection as it stands then. Ginger Age still within DRS range of the Mercedes of Reflection, and pulling himself along very nicely indeed on those hard compound tyres. Lap 43 of 57 then. 16 laps remain here. Kiki 10-second penalty for corner cutting. I'm not quite sure what's happened then to Kiki. Then he seems to be struggling out there. Into the pits comes Reflection then, calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. Potentially a set of soft tyres going on the Mercedes driver. And yes, it is. I think yes, it is. Then off he goes. Then back underway. Where will he come out then? Will he come out ahead of Vessia? Is the question. Then he will be. Of course, it'll be very tight. Then of course it's the exit of or into turn 2, I should say. Then because he's coming out the pit lane now. Kiki's got a 3-second penalty. Then here comes Reflection. Then here comes the Alpine and the Haas then of Speed Kai in the background as well. Then and Reflection coming out then right behind these two here as well. Then trying to go around the outside of Vessia then straight away and into the top 10 straight away then for Reflection. He's made the move then up into the top 10, back up into the top 10 as well. Good stuff indeed then. Vintage soft compound tyres going on the Red Bull car for the Red Bull team, I should say, for Vintage that is. Speed Kai then is on the attack then. Sorry, he's got himself past Reflection then, but of course Reflection now onto a fresh set of soft compound tyres. Will be flying out there very quickly indeed then, with some DRS as well then down the back straight in towards P9 potentially, then looking for a move. Then Speed Kai tries to cover it off then, but he has done just about then into the technical part of the circuit. Onto lap 44 we go. For Troy, that is. We're a bit further back then on lap 43 at this stage then for these two here as well, but so far so good then. Reflection now onto a set of soft compound tyres. 10-second penalty for Kiki for corner cutting once again. And he seems to be having a few issues out there with keeping it in track limits then is Kiki then. DRS then for Reflection, then off he goes then with the extra power then of the extra grip and speed of those soft compound tyres as well, then up into P9 then. And can he chase down Coop then in the Williams then? He's only 6 seconds ahead then. Coop is actually in the pit lane, so never mind. He is coming in the box then, calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres, I should say. Then Young Lights has been passed then by Mushroom, up into P6 now for Mushroom, then P6 I should say, then 3 seconds behind Mumford as it stands, who is now putting the pressure on Ginger Rage for P4. We've had Sick as Muck then set the fastest lap of the race, then Cooper's coming out the box then on medium compound tyres. Maybe didn't have any soft compound tyres left then, unfortunately, for the Williams driver, but he is back underway then, P13 for Coop. Good stuff indeed then. Favre then soldiering on then. Can Favre get to the end of the Grand Prix on those hard compound tyres is the question. It might be pretty tough indeed then. We'll have to wait and see then. Young Lights then still staying with the mushroom then. We've got more yellow flags then. It's this time for Cam's had an issue then. He's gone off the circuit then at the long left-hander then in sector 2. Back underway then on those soft compound tyres, but he has lost out to Coop as he goes through onto the back straight now as well then behind the Williams car as well. I think unfortunately for Cam he's having a few problems out there tonight in this race then, but his teammate in the other kick Sauber then is flying out there in Troy's form. Troy is doing a brilliant job out there. 10-second penalty again for Kiki, but it seems like he's just racking them up for fun now as Favre is in the pit lane. So Favre calling it a day then on the soft compound tyres, sorry, on the hard compound tyres. Young Lights has got himself past Mushroom once again then. Favre soft compounds. Ginger Rage into the, oh no he's not. I thought he was going to be in the podium places then, but he's literally just been passed by Mumford, so that is bad news indeed. Then Favre coming out the pit lane now is going to be behind this trio, I think. Then yes he is, then he's behind. No, yeah, he is, sorry. I saw a hash there, I thought it was Speed Kai, but it's actually as Speed Kai is on the attack now into turn 1 then. Can he make the position? Not quite then. He's down the inside then, over the curbs then a bit as well for the hash car. There's a lap car, I think, of Kiki then just getting out of the way as well. But like I was saying then, so Ginger Rage then was on the podium then very briefly, but he was passed by Mumford into turn 1 then and lost out to that podium place, unfortunately for Ginger Rage then. But he's flying out there in P4 as it stands then, looking very strong indeed then. And can he hold on to Mumford's toe and get himself some big points here for the McLaren team as well? We'll have to wait and see then. Mushroom then on the attack then with Young Lights, then can't get himself past the hash then just yet for P5. Then into the pits comes Hungry Stars then, medium compound tyres going on the Red Bull car and back underway. Favre now caught up to the back of Mushroom and Young Lights as well then, going through the underpass section here, and these trio then are going to start to fight for position I think here very shortly. But of course Favre on the much fresher tyres then will have no issue I don't think getting through the order then, as unfortunately for Kiki he's got another 10-second penalty for corner cutting again then. Favre then on the attack then, he's got himself up into P6 then, passes Mushroom, and now as Cam picks up a 3-second penalty as well then, unfortunately for Cam he's got himself into the fight now with Coop. Just about then I think, he was just about in that fight. Speed Kai passes Vessia then for P9, and so far so good for them for Speed Kai up into P9 then, 2 points on the board then so far. But of course actually with the penalty situation he is in P8 technically, with the situation for reflections penalties that will be added onto his race time at the end of the Grand Prix. Favre now on the back of Young Lights and trying to challenge the hash then for that P5 position then. Favre potentially in contention for a podium place then, which would be terrible news, but there we are. So there we go then. You'll find out then when he does have an interview, that is why that is terrible news then. But he has passed Young Lights then into P5 now for the Alpine. There was some DRS helpage in towards sector 2 then, in towards the end of sector 2 I should say then. Very nicely done indeed. And now 2 seconds behind Ginger Rage, who's on a much older hard compound tyres compared to Favre's 1 lap old soft compound tyres. But that is the strategy then, unfolding very nicely then for Favre so far. Young Lights then has lost out to the DRS then of Favre straight away then, and here comes Mushroom then on the attack then, 4 tenths behind as it stands then. Mumford has gone for a move then, he's got himself up past Equaz then as well. So Mumford is really on a charge then, 19 seconds to the race lead then for Mumford. I don't think it's going to be close enough at the end of the Grand Prix to be able to go for that then, unfortunately. Favre then in DRS range of Ginger Rage already then, as we go on to the main straight once again, lap 47 of 57 here, as Vessia and Speed Kai carry on their battle here as well. And Speed Kai very aggressively battling, it looks like there, but he was a bit too far back to make any late lunge there. Serious Mushroom is still trying to get himself past Young Lights here as well. Penalty situation as Ginger Rage then and Favre are side by side then into sector 1, and Ginger Rage has unfortunately yielded, but he should have taken him out. No, I don't condone that, of course. But of course, these two are admins, and they've been part of ALR for goodness me, over 4 years now. So yes, they know each other very well. Maybe not so well on track as Ginger Age hasn't raced too much then in ALR, but they are getting familiar with each other then on this track, and then it looks like as well then. So there we are. But Ginger Age now needs to try and hold on to Farf as long as he can then in the rest of this race then, because that will help him defend from the likes of Young Lights, the likes of Mushroom, the likes of Reflection and Vessia and Speed Kai then, who are coming up behind in the next few laps or so potentially as well. Then we'll have to wait and see what he can do then. But unfortunately Farf then on those soft compound tyres has cruised off into the distance then already into P4. Then he's got himself a 1.3 second gap then over the McLaren driver. 10-second penalty for Kiki for corner cutting once again. Then I don't think Kiki has realised that the corner cutting is not working, and he needs to get that sorted. But I think he will end up about 5 minutes or so behind behind Hungry Styles, that is, as well then at this stage, because of all the penalties that are rolling in. We'll have a look at the penalty situation. Then 59 seconds is the gap then for Kiki. So far so good. Speedkai back past Vessia then into P9 once again. Then of course penalty permitting, then Speedkai needs to try and get himself into the range then of Mushroom then sorry, Young Lights then, of Mushroom and of Reflection as well if he can. 4 seconds the gap between Reflection and Speedkai as it stands then on those medium compound tyres. Back underway then we go. Then Vessia then waiting in the wings as well. Then 3 seconds for Vessia. Then 3 seconds for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers. Then 6 seconds for Young Lights and 6 for Hungry Styles. Then 59 seconds brilliantly then for Kiki, who is doing his best I think to rack up the penalties out there. Here comes Young Lights then on the attack, then trying to get himself past Ginger Rage, and 2 seconds the gap then to the top 4. Ginger Rage as Farf is actually on the attack. Then Farf has got a penalty then as well, then going over the curbs. Goodness me, what is he doing? He doesn't need to go this aggressive then, does Farf, but he's decided to anyway, because for whatever reason he was easily going to get himself past here on this straight regardless, and doesn't need to just send it into the chicane. But whatever we want to do, then that is Farf, and great stuff indeed. But there we go, P3 then for Farf then, but has picked up that penalty then through the chicane. Young Lights can't get himself past Ginger Rage then. Serious Mushroom now is caught up to this trio as well, and or to this duo I should say as well, and now within DRS range then as we go on to the start finish straight. Then Young Lights on the attack then for the McLaren, then for the down the inside then into turn 1. Then Ginger Rage around the outside tries to hold him off, then goes wide, and that is going to be costly indeed I think. Then side by side as Mushroom's gone through as well then on Ginger Rage, up into P6 now for Mushroom, then trying to take on the fight then with Young Lights I should say into the latter stages of this Grand Prix. Then Ginger Rage dropping down to P7 as it stands, potentially could hold on to that P7 if he can keep up the pace then on those old hard compound tyres compared to those who are on much fresher tyres ahead of him and behind him as well now. But there is only 8 laps remaining at the end of this one then, so it is not all done and dusted just yet. Then Young Lights has been passed by Mushroom this time. Mushroom now up into P5 and into the lead of this trio now as well. Then now into a bit of a sandwich then for Young Lights. Then McLaren sandwich, bit of an orange sandwich then. Good stuff indeed. Right then, so we've got 8 laps remaining then, so that will take Farf's tyres up to a grand old age of 12 laps. And that will be, I think, still pretty good then for Farf, because we saw them start to drop off around lap 13 or so. Yellow flags. Then Kiki is facing the wrong way then in the technical part of the circuit, and that is not where you want to be pointing, unfortunately, in this race then for Kiki, as he gets himself back underway, and back under the underpass then for Kiki as well. Then good stuff indeed. But yeah, unfortunately, goodness me, that's better. 16 seconds the lead then for Troy. Then he is out in front, very comfortable at the moment it looks like. There of course is Mumford on the charge and behind him with some penalties in play as well though. And Farf then on the soft compound tyres is really charging him down then. 1.4 seconds the gap then. It doesn't look like Farf then holding the car very nicely through those slaloming S's though, unfortunately, which has cost him a bit of time to the Aston Martin. So far so good out there as well. Then Young Lights then still trying to battle back. Then Ginger Rage has lost out to DRS then of his teammate and Young Lights as well for P5 then. Unfortunately that is going to be very costly indeed. Then can Reflection get himself into the fight then with the Ginger Rage then for P7, potentially Speed Kai then on the attack as well. Then Vessia then unfortunately as unfortunately dropping off the back as well, and slightly soft compound tyres going on Kiki's car. And back underway then 7 laps remain, and at the end of this one, then I think Troy is going to come through on to lap 51 now. Then he is looking quite comfortable out here tonight, and has done a great job then for the Kick Sauber green machine so far, that is. Of course, don't want to jinx it, but fingers crossed it's not a commentator's curse. Yeah, to be fair, I shouldn't do that because that's probably going to happen now. But Farf now is back in contention, I should say, back in the fight then for P2, putting on the soft compound tyres. He's got himself through the order then, and back into this fight then. 27 laps then for Equaz on the hard compound tyres. Then can Mushroom, can Young Lights, can Ginger Rage catch up to Equaz in the Williams then, and take back that P4 position potentially? We'll have to wait and see. It's getting very sweaty out here indeed. I'm very sweaty indeed. Speed Guy 6 seconds off the back of Reflection now. Unfortunately, he is not gaining enough time. Then Mumford picks up a 3-second penalty as well. That's costly because that's Mumford's second penalty as well. Then potentially that could put him in the range then of Equaz, and maybe Mumford lose out on the podium places as it stands, that is. Of course, there is still 6.5 laps left to go then for Mumford to try and eke out that gap then. But Farf then, I think, is going to be thinking about that position first as Young Lights passes Mushroom. Then Farf only 3/10 behind Mumford for that P2 position. Then Young Lights back up into P5, then ahead now of Sirius Mushroom, then into P6 then for the McLaren driver. Mumford, like I said, under pressure then from Farf. Maybe saw that Alpine coming in his wing mirrors then, and got a bit scared and jumped out of the way a bit too early, then causing himself a second penalty then in this race. But here comes the Alpine of Farf then on the attack, then down the back straight, then towards the penultimate corner, then up into P2, and takes back that P2 position as well then, after of course running there for quite a long time then in the second phase of the race. Then now passes Mumford, then can he get himself on his bike? Then 16 seconds the gap to the race lead. Then can Farf win this race? I hope not, but we will find out then as we cruise onto lap 52 now as well. Then only 5.5 laps remain then at the end of this one. Then Vessia's past Speed Kai for, oh my goodness me, then again locking up into the penultimate corner. Then Speed Kai multiple occasions now on this track. He's lost out. Then Sticker Smoke picks up a penalty as well. Then unfortunately for Sticker Smoke, that's going to be costly. I think that might stop him from being in contention for a top 10 finish here. Unfortunately, last week's race winner was fantastic in China then, but he's had a bit of trouble in this race so far. But there we go then. That is the way of Formula One then, isn't it? So sometimes you're on form and sometimes you are not on form. Then it is a very difficult business is Formula One. Right then, Equaz needs to stay within 6 seconds of Mumford then to hold on to that potential podium place then. But unfortunately for Equaz, he is stay within DRS range of Farf, which is pulling himself along then with some DRS activation throughout the lap. That is, he's dropped out of that 1 second window now for the time being as well then. So now over 1 second then for Mumford as we cruise on to lap 53 then. Vessia's got himself past, Speed Car's got himself past Vessia once again then on the back straight. Then Mumford back in DRS range then of the Alpine. Almost swallowed my tongue then, but he has got himself back in DRS range then. This is bad news for Equaz as Equaz is soldiering on out there, but now Young Lights is going to be challenging. Equaz could be looking over his shoulder rather than looking for the attack then here. He's over 6 seconds now to Mumford, so Mumford is inside the podium places as it stands as well. Young Lights then could be challenging then Equaz then for that P4 position as well. Then Sirius Mushroom is coming with him as well, as is potentially Ginger Rage as well. Ginger Rage holding on to that position now as well. Then 6 seconds the gap back to Reflection. I think he is safe then from Reflection. It could be Ginger Rage's first points of the season here in Miami as we've got yellow flags. And it's Kiki again then. Kiki unfortunately having a few more issues out there and really struggling in this race as well. He only just pitted then for the soft compound tyres. Cam is also in the pit lane, and Cam calling it down on the soft compound tyres as well. He's done 12 or 13 laps now and potentially going to go for the fastest lap of the race here as well. The blue flag's been fluttered as well. Equaz has been passed by Young Lights, then Young Lights up into P4, Equaz down into P5, but of course penalties permitting. Oh goodness me, what's happened there? We've got another problem then for it's Kiki letting people through this time, thankfully. Goodness me, I thought we had an issue then for another car. But like I was saying then, Young Equaz can just try and stay within the penalty range then of the drivers around him, and he will be able to get himself promoted back up the order then at the end of lap 57. No DRS then for Equaz then, unfortunately, as he's had some sort of issue then opening the DRS window. But here comes Mushroom then on the attack then into the penultimate corner. Not quite then for Mushroom. Unfortunately for Mushroom, that is, he stays P6 for the time being. but Equaz then for some reason didn't have DRS open then on the back straight there, so which is a bit odd. He has still not got DRS open, so potentially there's a technical issue then for Equaz there, which is costly. But he is still, he dropped out of the 1 second window now as well. Then Vessia and Sickers Muck, then Vessia and Sickers Muck, then having another battle then, and Speed Kai is involved here as well, just ahead of these two as well. On to lap 54. Then we go. Then here he comes. Then on the attack goes Vessia down the inside. Then Speed Kai locking up again. Then unfortunately, Speed Kai is really struggling with locking up those tyres then in this race. Mumford and Farf then switching places, and Mumford and Farf then battling away then as well as we go on to the back straight then for the Alpine and the Aston Martin, then side by side into the heavy braking zone, still side by side through the technical part of the lap as well. Then Farf has to yield then to the Aston Martin of Mumford, that is. Goodness me, I couldn't remember people's names. I can read them in front of my eyes, but I can't actually focus on what's going on in front of me. There we go, Kiki back in the pit lane. Back onto a set of soft compound tyres and back underway again then as we go for another round then lap. Well, Serious Mushroom then has dropped out of the DRS range unfortunately then of Young Lights. He's got himself past Equaz, and now Equaz back on the attack then, Farf and Mumford on the attack as well then. Lap 55 then has commenced then for the race leader. Here comes Farf then to start off lap 55 as well here, but he's got Mumford then for some competition it looks like then, and the more battling that Farf does with Mumford, the more that it brings Equaz back in contention as well then. Of course he needs to get himself back in 6 seconds then of the Aston Martin, but unfortunately he is not just a moment. He's over 9 seconds I think at the moment, which is a shame, but that is the way the cookie crumbles, isn't it there? Speed Kai then has been passed by Sick as Muck then. I don't think Speed Kai needs to worry too much about being passed by Sick as Muck, although he looks like he is. Goodness me then, between Sick as Muck then and Speed Kai then, talking about getting your elbows out then, as we've got more elbows out again then, as into turns 1 and turns 2 and 3 we go then on lap 55 then. Like I said, Speed Car just needs to keep it clean then, and he can get those places back then with the penalty situation for the drivers ahead of him then. Farf has been passed by Mumford into the technical part of the lap then on lap 55 then. Lap 56 soon to commence the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix then. Coop and Speed Car still battling away then into sector 2 then. Goodness me then, Coop of course is on much fresher tyres then as well, but penalties are not in his favour then. The penalties are in Speed Kai's favour completely then. No penalties for Speed Kai, so really he's got to sit behind. Well, to be fair, all he needs to do is just watch this battle here really, because he doesn't need to worry too much at all. He doesn't need to stick his nose in anywhere that doesn't need to be. He can just, oh my goodness me, as Coop picked up another penalty as well, then Sick as Muck's gone off the circuit and ghosted somewhere. And my goodness me, what is going on there? Speed Kai then has got himself back up into P11 then, past Sick as Muck then of course, but yeah, I think Sick as Muck went off the circuit there, and that ghosted his Ferrari then, didn't it, and let Speed Kai back through. But that is that then. Speed Kai on the attack then, going to go 3 wide, are they? No, not quite then. Speed Kai thinks twice about it, and I think very sensibly thinking twice about it as well then. Coop and Sick as Muck make contact then into the penultimate corner, then Sick as Muck back up into P10, but of course this battling then is going to be costly indeed then for both of them, as Coop is not, Speed Kai is going to be just able to sit there and watch and wait then for the points to come his way. They just need to make sure they keep in contention with Vessia. Then Vessia has got a 3-second penalty. Then currently Speed Kai is going to gain 3 places then at the checkered flag as it stands, with this battling then with the trio ahead of him on the penalty situation, that is, of course. So we'll have to wait and see how that unfolds. Then Troy is leading the race then quite comfortably indeed. Then he is coming through the penultimate corner then to start off lap 57 of 57 here, and I'm sure he has had a very quiet, very exhilarating race indeed. Then Sick as Muck has been passed by Coop, and up into P10 goes at the Williams car then. Good stuff indeed. Back on the attack then is Coop then. So far so good then. Can he get himself back in this fight then? Kiki's back in the pit lane, and I think he's trying to do as many stops as possible, as well as picking up as many penalties as possible in his Kiki, but he's doing a good job then of completing the challenge for sure. Right then, Speed Kai is still on the back of this lot. Then we'll have to make sure we keep an eye on where Troy is, because we need to make sure we see what happens at the checkered flag. But he is so far ahead then that he's just been out of sight for most of this race, which is fair play to him as well. Here we go then, Sick as Muck then, 1.1 seconds the gap between Coop and Vessia, but of course Coop is on much fresher tyres as well then, so that could wheel himself back in, or reel himself back in. Speed Kai looking like he's going to be claiming P9 in this race as well then, by all accounts though, as we just had a problem. What's happened? Mushroom's had an issue then. Mushroom's had a problem then in sector 2. What's happened to Mushroom then? Has he got a puncture or something? I'm not quite sure. Farf has got himself back past Mumford, has he? Around the outside then of the Aston Martin, turns to the inside through the technical part of the lap then. Into P2 we go. We'll come back to him, but here we go then. Here comes Troy, and Troy has been absolutely formidable in this race. Like I was saying earlier, we haven't seen him at all in this Grand Prix because he's been that far out in front most of the time, but a fantastic race indeed then for the Kick Sauber reserve driver. Then he has done a brilliant job here tonight then, to claim the victory then from pole position then to the checkered flag for Kick Sauber. Then Troy crosses the line to win the Miami Grand Prix in fantastic style indeed. Then brilliant stuff from Troy. What a result then, and what a win, what a comfortable win indeed for the Kick Sauber driver. Then fantastic indeed from Troy as well. Then Farf crosses the line at P2 I should say then. Brilliant stuff indeed from Farf then, and what a strategy then from the Alpine driver then to get himself into the podium places then. Unfortunately, we'll give him an interview later on then. Mumford P3 in the end does hold on then to that podium place, and Equaz P4, Young Lights P5 then, Serious Mushroom P6, Ginger Rage scores his first points of the season, P7 for Ginger Rage, 37 laps on the hard compound tyres. What a race then from Ginger Rage then. He gets some points for his team under his belt then. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Reflection P8 then. Speed Kai does finish P9 in the end. Brilliant from Speed Kai. Vessia P10 then. Coop just outside the top 10 by 2.6 seconds. Sick as Muck P12 then. Young Lights is retired then, but he was classified P11, P5 I should say, sorry. New Zealand Cannon then P13. Vintage P14 then. Hungry Stars P15. Kiki P16, and unfortunately Jenna, Moomin and Kamara Racer all retired in this race. Goodness me, that was fantastic stuff indeed there. Ginger Rage then has got P7 in this race then. Of course, Young Lights then did retire early, but he did cross the line then in P5 then. So fantastic stuff indeed. Ginger Rage here in Miami then will be celebrating in the sunshine then with a few cocktails himself. What a race then from Ginger Rage then. Go Team Bronze, says Andy in the comments section as well then. Brilliant stuff indeed then as well. Fantastic for the McLaren team then. Some big points then. There is your race winner then. Troy on the top step of the podium then. Farf in P2 and Mumford in the Aston Martin P3. Fantastic stuff indeed then. And brilliant. There we are then. Those are your podium drivers, and we will hopefully get some further interviews with those drivers as well. We will look firstly at the classification then for the Miami Grand Prix then, and here it is then. Troyer then wins from pole position, then a fantastic race win then for the Swede then in the Kick Sauber, then pole position to the checkered flag. Farf P2 then, fastest lap of the race as well then for Farf in the Alpine. Brilliant stuff indeed from P15. Mumford P3 I should say, rounding off the podium places. Equaz P4, brilliant stuff from Equaz. Serious Mushroom, Young Lights is actually P5. Mushroom in P6 then, Ginger Rage P7, Reflection P8 then, Speed Kai P9 and Vessia rounds off the top 10 then. Coop, Sick as Muck, Cam, Vintage Styles, Kiki rounded off the final points, final places I should say then, with Ginger, Moomin and Kamara Racer then retiring from this Grand Prix. Fantastic stuff indeed. We will hopefully get some interviews underway very shortly as well. But in the meantime, we will just sit and wait. We've got Farf who joined us then. Farf, then what a race from yourself then. You got yourself a podium. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff indeed. And yes, anything good about your race that you want to tell us about? Or?
Yeah.
Cool beans. Well done to a fantastic result for yourself and Alpine. Well done then. Great stuff. Troy wins the race here in Miami, and Troy has joined us as well. Then Troy, a fantastic race win. Then we didn't see you for most of the Grand Prix because you was that far ahead of everyone. To be fair, so what did you think about that race?
Sorry, mate. Was this question for me? I just heard your voice. Literally, the final couple of sentences.
Yes.
Was that question for me? What I made of the race. Yeah, it was a good race. Sorry, man. Yeah, it was a good race, man. It was. I didn't really have to do too much. It was a bit of bumper wheels between P2, P3 at the start. I made sure to get that gap, and since that, it was just cruise control. Really, was pretty good. Just to keep myself disciplined from not getting any pens or anything. So yeah, it was pretty good, man. Car felt really good, to be honest, considering it's a Sauber car. So it felt pretty good.
And was it different to China?
It was completely different to China, man. China was awful, man. I don't know if it was just track dependent that this track suited it more. It's probably that, but I think it's also the new updates to the controller feel thing. I think I just in general feel better. But I don't really know, to be honest. It was definitely better than China for sure. China was awful. But yeah, it was good. It was good, and it's looking promising.
Good stuff indeed. Then, and like I said, a comfortable race win. Then, did you think anybody was going to challenge you? To be honest, the closest one was Favre at one point. Did you think Favre was going to be a problem? I mean, apart from just being fast, but yeah, in terms of racing.
Yeah, no, I didn't think he was going to be a problem really, but he really surprised me, man. I think it was his stint on the hards. It was really good from him. I was surprised I didn't shake him off even quicker or more because I, he stuck with me pretty well for a while. And when I asked my engineer how many laps he'd done on those tires, he had done like 15 or 16 laps on them hard. I was just on 3 or 4, so I was surprised he stuck with me. But at some point, I kind of break that DRS gap, and then it was a bit easier from there. But yeah, it was good, man, and it's very different. It really shows that in the 100% races, you can really box laps prior and still be up to pace, with the undercut.
No, it worked out well indeed for yourself and for Kicksauber then. So we'll see you back then next week in where are we next week? Goodness me, who knows where? Probably Monaco or something like that. So yeah, but no, fantastic race indeed from Troy. Then came to the race win then, and from pole position as well here in Miami. Then Favre P2 at Mumford. Unfortunately, I don't think he's joined us, but he is in P3 in the Aston Martin. So congrats to him as well. We'll see you in a week's time then for some more 100% action. Then of course ALR is going to be here in Miami then for gold, silver, and bronze from Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So stay tuned to ALR. Plenty more action coming up then, and we'll see you very soon.